Good morning and welcome to the 10th day of sport here at the 2018 FEI World Equestrian Games. And today it's day 2 of the FEI Driving the Marathon. And just look at that beautiful scene. It's absolutely fantastic here in Tryon. And let's just have a look at a guide to tell us all about driving.
Driving is one of the oldest competitive equestrian sports and dates back to the ancient Greeks well over 2,000 years ago. A modern-day driving team consists of 3 athletes: a backstep who helps steer the rear of the carriage, a navigator who helps direct the driver, and the driver who controls the direction of the carriage using a team of 4 horses. The FEI Championship driving is split over 3 phases: dressage, marathon, and cones. Phase 1, the dressage test. The objective of the driven dressage test is to show discipline, ease of movement, and regularity of pace within an arena. The drivers who have the best score lead the way into the next day's competition. Phase 2, the marathon stage. The objective of the marathon is to test the fitness and stamina of the horses, as well as the driving skill and judgment of pace of the athlete across several obstacles. The final phase is the cone stage. The cone stage is to test the fitness, suppleness and obedience of the horses, as well as the skill of the athletes as they maneuver through a course of cones. On top of each cone is placed a ball. If knocked and the ball falls, a penalty is incurred, which is added to their final score. The competitor with the lowest penalty score after all stages is the winner and crowned the FEI Driving World Champion.
And today we're on Phase 2, so after the dressage, the reigning champion Boyd XL reigning champion Boyd XL for Australia, looking for his 3rd successive individual title here at the 2018 FEI World Equestrian Games. Well, the long-standing battle between Boyd XL and Chester Webber has already started. Chester Webber of the United States just about 4 points behind Boyd XL, and that's going to be a tough fight. In the team competition, which we'll have a look shortly, Jimmy Fairclough there on 53.15 as an individual, a member of that US team. George von Stein, one of the most experienced drivers in this world of driving here for Germany. It is going to be very, very tight at the top of the teams, and that just shows you that there's only 10.33 penalties between the United States of America and the reigning champions, the Netherlands, who got team gold 4 years ago in Caen in Normandy. And the scenes here are absolutely fabulous, and we're looking at a course that's been built on formerly a Arnold Palmer designed golf course. The golf course has been moved, and we now have the driving course. And Jimmy Fairclough will be the first to get us underway. Won recently at Bremont in Canada, and he's been a champion both in pairs and in 4-in-hand. Anthony Horde for the French team, he was 2nd at a World Equestrian Games, and now we go down the list. We've just got 19 competitors. Who have we got on there? Benjamin Aylard for France, 6th in the world rankings. Chester Webber, individual silver 4 years ago behind Boyd XL, and looking to go one better to take individual and team gold. Well, that set us up for the competition that starts in just a few moments' time, and rather fortunately the temperature has dropped slightly. We're about 3 or 4 degrees lower in temperature than we have been over the last few days. Having said that, it is 26 degrees, there's not a lot of wind, and therefore it still feels very, very muggy and hot here. Richard Nicol, the international course designer who spent the last few months to design a beautiful course, and I'm now at this point going to bring in my co-commentator, previous 4-in-hand driver at World Championships, Wendy Ying. Wendy, take us through the course that Richard Nicol's designed.
Okay, well, this course has been a really beautiful scenic course. The drivers have options here. They have to go through the gates in order alphabetically, but as you can see from this graphic, they can go through B either way. They have the option of going over the bridge or around. The bridge has quite a hill, so it's a pull, so they may go around that. But this is just the proposed route. They have options that they can choose depending on the scopiness of their horse. So right here, this is a pretty technical hazard. You can see it's pretty tight with the turns with the forehand. They have knockdowns in this obstacle also. If they knock a ball off of the rail, they'll get 2 additional penalty points. But as you can see, it's quite a twisty-turny track. Once they have gone through a gate, that gate's dead, so they can go back through it again with no penalty. However, if they go through a gate, like say they go through, on this is perfect. If they went through A and then went straight to C and F, they would get penalty points added to their score. So they have to go around C until they go through B. So this is another twisty-turny course. However, the boxes are pretty symmetrical, so this is something that the forehand drivers train on quite a bit. So coming down to obstacle 4, they have quite a distance to go around the golf course here. And this is where the big crowds are going to be, so they have to think about that for their horses. This is quite an open obstacle on the map. However, this is a bowl, so terrain is going to be quite difficult here. That D turn may be quite exciting because it's on a very steep slope and it's very sharp. And then they run out of that bowl. Then they're going to come around to all these hazards. 4, 5, and 6 are in like a bowl hazard. So the outsides of the hazards are going to be quite hilly. So coming down into A, they have to think about the weight of the carriage pushing the horses beyond the turns. And as you can see, that's quite that's almost like a 10-meter circle around D over to E and then F. So they have approximately 1 kilometer between obstacles. They have to keep up their speed on the track to get into the optimum time. So here's the water hazard. This is going to have a lot of spectators. Once the carriage hits the water, it is there's a lot of drag. So some drivers opt to avoid the water. Others have horses that enjoy the water and really pull through it, so they'll make their decision on that basis. Then we go up to hazard 7. This is going to go over the bridge. This is going to be a great one for spectators. This one also has quite an incline around the outside. It's going to be great for spectators, but this C turn might be a little difficult for the drivers. Also, this roll back to E has some knockdowns. It's quite tight, and it's on an angle. Then they'll have to run around the outside to F. And then this is, as with the eventing, this course has a long, slow hill. That's what they'd be coming up to the arena. So that proved to be very tiring for some of the event horses. As with the carriage horses, they have to come up this long hill, and then they do their last hazard. So they have to catch their wind back to get the maximum amount of speed and power for this last hazard, which should be quite exciting because it'll be right in the arena. And then they finish. And that's it. It's going to be a great course. Good luck to all the competitors.
Well, Wendy, thank you very much indeed. We're about to get the first driver, who will be Jimmy Fairclough, part of the United States team, on the course in just a few moments' time. Wendy, it's difficult to see at the moment, but the course, as you mentioned, is quite hilly.
Yes.
Does that play a factor?
Yes, it does. As you can see now, we have Jimmy on the screen, and our carriages, there's a minimum weight of the carriages. So it's 660 kilos, which is about 1,300 pounds alone. So then you add the people. So these horses are pulling quite a bit. Usually the wheelers, which are the horses closest to the carriage, do most of the pulling. And the leaders stay out of draft, we call it. So they're not pulling as much. But you can put the leaders in draft to help you. So, for example, pulling up that hill, the drivers will probably put their leaders in draft to pull up the hill to give their wheelers a rest.
First to get us underway on day 2 of the FEI driving here at the 2018 FEI World Equestrian Games, Jimmy Fairclough. overnight after the dressage in 11th place, dressage score of 53.15, and a member of the United States team who are currently in the lead. Total score for the United States at the moment, 77.1 penalties, and the first of their team members, Jimmy Fairclough, for the United States on this beautiful course here at Tryon in North Carolina, day 2 of the FEI driving. And Wendy, this isn't for the faint-hearted.
No,
the marathon
it's
day,
very
is it?
exciting. Marathon day is actually the most exciting for all of us. It's a cross between NASCAR and chariot racing. But also, one of the things that's really exciting about four-in-hand is that you're driving 4 different personalities. So the drivers have 5 horses that they have at this competition, and they can switch them around for different phases. For example, this left leader of Jimmy's was in his wheel of the dressage team, but this horse, this left leader, loves marathon, so he puts him out in the front. Because your leader has to be really bold. I mean, you see how far out they are in front of you. When you're eventing and they spook at something, you can kick on. Whereas your leaders, they have to be bold and brave. So here we go with Jimmy. He's going around the water. He opted not to go over the bridge. And there he goes through A. You can see that they're very good. They didn't avoid the knockdown. Now they hit the water. And you can see the drag on the carriage when you go into the water. So that's quite a difference in the weight.
And each of the 8 obstacles have their individual timing, don't they? And then they add those times up at the end.
Yeah, so as soon as he goes into the entrance of the hazard, his time starts. And they get timed until they hit the out gate. And that is their score on this obstacle. And those penalty points are added to their dressage score. And so you can see here that the top step person is helping Jimmy navigate through the obstacles to make sure you hit all the gates and you go the direction you want to go, because the driver is really busy. He's looking at where he's going, but he's also having to worry about taking his loops and steering the horses. And the guy on the back here, you can see he is helping to weight down the carriage when they do tight turns, or sometimes they can slide it over if they need to pull the carriage over so they don't hit a knockdown. So there he is in the out. So now he can go back to the trot, and he's back on his optimum time for the track.
And I wanted to ask you a bit more about that, because they can relax now. They can let the horses rest a little, get a bit of breath back before the next obstacle. And then they have the optimum time, as you say, which is between 32 minutes and 45 minutes. They have to complete the whole of Section B. This being Section B, the obstacle course.
Yeah. Did you see that on the slow-mo? You see the top step is pulling the whip down so it didn't hit the bridge and scare the horses. That was good. That's a good top stepper.
And top stepper or navigator.
Navigator.
Are they talking to the driver?
Yes, yeah, because it's a team sport. These people are very important on your back, because sometimes things happen and you need to focus on your horse to make sure you're steering your horse, but you need somebody. It's almost like you're having your vision on the course, and your back stepper is like your peripheral vision, making sure you've done everything. And you can see it happens in a couple seconds. So it's very easy to go down the wrong gap and assume that you've gone through a gate, and you might have missed that if you're focusing on something else. Also, you mentioned about the course. They're trotting now, but this course speed is 14 kilometers per hour. So they gallop in the obstacles. They're going about 20 kph if they want to. So right here you can see Jimmy's behind the tree, but he's taking a little walk break. He's really slowing down, and that gives the horses a chance to catch their breath. And and actually they're stopped here. So once they're on the track, if they have a harness adjustment or something they need to change, he can halt and put his groom down to change or make an adjustment.
And as long as they complete between that 32 minutes, 17 seconds and 45 minutes, after all the obstacles through Section B, they are within the time, so that's absolutely fine. And they judge that for themselves. Some will do different speeds and different things at different times.
Yeah, like when I was driving, my horses were actually quite small. They're about 15 hands. So after I would do a hazard, I would walk for maybe a minute or so they could catch their breath, and then they'd be fresh to go again. So here comes Jimmy to the next hazard.
So to obstacle 2 on this course. No knockdowns on this obstacle. This obstacle has been entitled Tryon, which is of course the name of the fabulous equestrian venue that we're in for the whole of the World Equestrian Games. So we're watching James Fairclough. Jimmy Fairclough as is known. Overnight 11th place, 53.15, and recently won at the Bromont Championship up in Canada. Has been a champion in the sport of driving, both in pairs and fours. Wendy, do some of these drivers switch from one to the other, pairs and fours?
Oh yes, yeah. Jimmy was one of our greatest pairs drivers, and he's also a Super 4 driver, of course. But with four-in-hand driving, you practice a lot with pairs. You know, four-in-hand driving is more exciting, so sometimes we get bored with pairs. But you have to be able to drive 2 pairs to be able to drive a four-in-hand. And as you can see too, with Jimmy in that hazard, the wheeler pair tends to go outside of the turn, and that helps the carriage stay out, where the leaders can, like, you know, they will stay inside the turn. And the reason why the leaders aren't in draft, if the leaders were in draft or their traces were tight and they were pulling, you would make a archy turn and you would hit the post with your carriage. So we pull the leaders out of draft, and we call that articulating. We articulate our leaders, meaning we pull them out of draft and they can turn first. Then the wheelers get to the gate and then they turn, and that's how you avoid crashing the carriage into the post.
Well, we've got a time for Jimmy Fairclough for the United States through the first obstacle. 1 minute 11.72, 1 minute 11.72 for Jimmy Fairclough through the first obstacle. And we're just seeing the second team preparing at the start. And that will be Piotr Mazurek, individual, driving for Poland. And they'll be on the course. Get up to 6 teams on the course at one time.
So this is, they're getting ready to come out of the vet box here, and this is Piotr Mazurek from Poland. He's driving his homebred Polish warm bloods, and actually he has an American four-in-hand driver on the carriage, Josh Rector, and then his Polish regular backstepper, Krzysztof. They're quite a team here, and as you know, like, flying all these horses from Europe is quite expensive to make that trip and quite daunting. So Peter's actually borrowing carriages from both Josh and from Mizdi Wrigley Miller. So he's actually not driving his own carriages. However, our carriages are pretty similar. There are some little differences in it, but he should do fine. They're getting ready to start him on track, and as soon as his start time is ready, they'll send him off, and then he has about 1 kilometer to getting to 1.
Well, we talked about the beautiful surroundings, and of course it's not just humans that are hopping around the place here, as have been in this beautiful weather. Wonderful wildlife here in North Carolina, and look at the backdrop of the Blue Mountains, absolutely spectacular.
Yeah, the views here are just incredible. And the track has been really wonderful. You know, with the hurricane coming, I think a lot of people were worried about the footing, but it's dried out really fantastically. In fact, I did see them watering some grass yesterday, but the track is nice and firm, which is very helpful with the carriages. You know, with mud for carriages, it's just like I said about the water. The friction of the ground on the wheels makes so much drag that in a muddy course, that can really be hard on the horses and slow your times.
Well, plenty of spectators obviously around of all different species.
Yeah.
So the start time, they start every 7 minutes, don't they, the teams?
And here you can see, you saw someone pouring a bucket of water on there. This is our vet box. So they've done A, and they've done the transfer section. They come into this vet box and they get their TPRs taken, and then we have a chance to cool them down, but we don't have time to untack all the horses from the carriages. So usually you'll have 4 or 5 people meet you at the vet box, and we sponge the horses down and scrape them. If the drivers need a drink of water, they have a chance to do that. This is also the time when you can make any rein adjustments. With four-in-hand driving, we buckle our leader reins and wheeler reins together, and that setting is very important.
And now we're back following Jimmy Fairclough, United States, who's just approaching obstacle 3. Obstacle 3, there's 7 knockdowns on these boxes.
Yeah. Yes, you have to be very careful in here. And you can see Jimmy drives his leaders with the shadow roll on their nose, and some people feel like that makes them less looky when they get into the hazards.
Jimmy Fairclough. 1 minute, 2 seconds, 0.77 in the obstacle 2.
So you can see how he articulates there. Like I said, see the leaders' traces are quite loose, so they're not pulling the carriage. So he turns the leaders and then he turns the wheelers, and the wheelers will put their heads to the outside of the turn, which is something a little bit different from most disciplines. We usually have them bend to the inside of the turn. With the wheelers, they have to bend to the outside of the turn to make sure that the carriage stays out on its track. And there we go, very good through there. And you can see the little orange balls on the PVC pipes. Those are knockdowns. And if you hit those boxes with your carriage or with a horse, those things are coming down, and that's an extra 2 penalties added to your score. So it's quite a penalty. And there you see he's using his leaders to gallop out of the hazards.
This course, mentioned it was formerly a golf course. Also, much of this track was used for the eventing, the 3-day eventing of these championships.
Yeah, and actually our sport, combined driving, was based on eventing. So it's a lot of the similar rules and a lot of the similar penalties. And you'll see here the woman, this beautiful blonde woman in the pink pants holding Peter's horses, is his wife, Julia.
And just coming onto the course now, Peter Masaryk for Poland. Here as an individual, overnight in 15th place with a dressage score of 57.99. Josh Rector, the navigator, and Christoph on the backstop. Single competitor from Poland. Peter Masaryk out onto the marathon course.
And here's something quite interesting. You see Josh on the back step, on the top step, has that very, very long whip. Do you see that giant long whip? That whip is used that he can hand that to the driver, and the driver can use that on his leaders if need be.
In fact, he's just swapped it over, as you were just saying that, Wendy.
Yeah, so because it's hard to reach your leaders with your regular whip. And it's too clunky to drive with this great big long one. So if you just need to tap your leader a little bit to be up in the traces, you can use that long whip, and then it's telescoping. So see, Josh is pushing it down back in, and it goes to normal size. And that was the whip that Jimmy's groom pushed down when they were going under the bridge.
On their way to obstacle 1 for Poland, Peter Masaryk.
You also see he has the marathon belt on. Sometimes if you hit an obstacle at speed, the driver can get ejected, which is a very bad thing to happen. So Josh is holding his belt. He's not tied in, but he has a belt, so if in case he gets bumped, he doesn't fall out of the seat.
I'd say that's pretty useful.
Yes, yes, that is very useful. So here we go. Looks like he might be going over the bridge.
And they have a choice of going over the bridge either way, I believe.
Yeah, and so he's going through B now. He's going underneath the bridge. Like I said, that's a big pull in the beginning of the hazard, so they might be saving their horses for later in the course. And they may think it's faster to go around.
There's not a lot of room between the width of the carriages and the obstacles, are there?
And in driving, you can drive a single, you can drive a pony, you can drive pairs, but the width between the gates and the obstacles is a standard width. But that's why the four-in-hand is so exciting, because to get a four-in-hand through here, you really don't have a lot of room. And there are times when you're galloping like a 10-meter circle. Another interesting thing is the waterfall coming out of the event jumps. When you're, like I said, when you're sitting on them, you can give them a lot of confidence with your leg and your body, but these leaders are like out there in front, so if they spook at something, you have to be prepared.
It's an interesting thing you said earlier, actually, about how this sport came from eventing.
Yeah.
I was talking to the course designer yesterday, who very kindly, Richard Nicol, took me around the course. He worked a lot with Captain Mark Phillips, who is the designer of the eventing course. Those two have worked for a year together, so they can actually share obstacles. So we are also seeing some of the jumping obstacles that were in the eventing competition 3 or 4 days ago.
Yeah, and I know that Mark Phillips also said he used terrain a lot in his course designing, and Richard has done the same here. So you can see the kind of bowl effect of this hazard.
This is hazard 4, obstacle 4, known as the golf course, as recognition of the fact that it was an Arnold Palmer golf course. Obstacle 4, Jimmy Fairclough, United States of America.
Yeah, so that turn that Jimmy just did, that Jimmy is a very good driver and likes to take the short routes, and that was actually, you can imagine turning a forehand around a post like that. That was pretty good.
Jimmy again.
And this does have a nice flow. There's long routes that have a nice flow around the round obstacles like where the golf green is. But Jimmy's choosing to take the shorter routes, which are a little bit more technical and a little bit more difficult to drive. As you can see, the zigzag through there. You saw his reins buckled there.
Encouragement to them as well as using those reins.
And so we'll see how he's going to tackle this. So there's another tight turn. You can see that's like maybe a 10-meter arc he's doing there. And up the hill to the out.
The control is phenomenal.
Yeah. And also here now they're putting they have maybe a break in the harness. So the backsteppers heading, we call it heading the wheelers. So just holding on to them in case of. Okay.
Now we're seeing Peter Masaryk entering obstacle 2. Peter Masaryk, who did 1 minute 15.16 seconds in obstacle 1. Jimmy Fairclough in obstacle 3, 1 minute 6.39. And 1 minute 18.3 for obstacle 4 for Jimmy Fairclough for the US.
And Peter, if you notice, all of us forehand drivers, I don't know why it is, but we all have our left leader is usually our superstar, but can be like a little bit hard to control. And as you can see, Peter's left leader, who's actually quite a bit bigger than his right leader, seems to be very bold. But sometimes he's a little bratty.
And that won't be making Peter's job any easier, will it?
No, because he has to say, look, I'm the boss, you're not the boss. But sometimes our left leaders, we want them to be bossy and bold to lead the rest of the horses. You know, they have to be brave, and they have to go where we tell them to go. So he did a great job with that. And then they're galloping out.
So Peter Masaryk, he's out of obstacle 2.
So Jimmy's back on his way again.
Jimmy Fairclough on his way to obstacle 5.
So obstacle 5 is another water obstacle. That's our Cape Hatteras Lighthouse obstacle. There's a lot of spectators down there. You know, one of the things about driving big shows like this is the horses and the riders the riders have seen it and they've done a test event here. But there's not usually huge crowds, so you get down there and the horses see this huge crowd of people and sometimes it distracts them.
Now we must be watching a little bit of a problem here for Jimmy Fairclough because he's had to stop a couple of times. Well, what will be happening there? It doesn't look like a breakage.
No.
Just something twisted round or something caught up?
Yeah, sometimes that happens, or maybe he broke a keeper or something, like the reins. Sometimes they can get attached. You see the bits of the horses, they have the shanks that come down.
Yes.
And it seems like he's lost his, sometimes we put a little U-shaped tube on the shanks so the reins don't get caught, but sometimes that falls off, and it seems to have fallen off the right leader.
Oh, I've got you. Yeah.
So sometimes the reins, when you're turning, get caught on those shafts. And other times, you know, you can change the buckles and change the settings. With riding, you can just shorten your reins. When you have your reins like this on the forehand, the amount of pressure you put on each horse's mouth is determined by all these different buckles. So whenever people start driving forehand, we always equate it to sailing. You have to get all your buckles attached in the proper manner to make your life easier. And you can see here, cantering up the hill, he has his leaders in draft. You see the traces for the leaders. So he's letting his leaders pull up that hill and giving his wheelers a little bit of a break.
And that was just a little bit of an impression how hilly this course is, because I couldn't believe it yesterday. It's mountainous almost in parts.
Yeah, it is.
Now we're looking at Anthony Horde for France, part of the French team. Overnight, as an individual, in 19th place on 65.19 after his dressage score. And Team France in 3rd place. Their total score after dressage, 101.4.
And he opted over the bridge there. He has some really beautiful horses. He's quite fast. He drives the Arabo Frisians. They're Frisian Arab crossbreds. And you can see these two in the front. Really, you can tell the Frisian in there. But they're quite fast, and they have great stamina. And very strong. So he chose to go over the bridge on this first one.
Formerly second at previous World Championships and a bronze medalist in the French Championships.
So he missed his turn there. His leaders just got a little bit strong, and he did a U-turn there. You can see quickly corrected that. That was great.
And there's no penalty for that, it's just the clock, the clock keeps ticking.
Yeah, it just kind of adds a little bit of distance. And you saw that there too. The left leader kind of wasn't clear which side of the bridge to go on, but that also could be because of this water fountain there. I know my horses would not like that water fountain, but I guess that's something that everybody's going to go home and train on in the future. So one of the things too is if your leaders, you can see here, if they are backing off at all, you don't have, like I said, you don't have leg to push them on, you only have your voice. So if they back out of the traces or spook at something, it's like pushing a string, because all you have is those two reins that go up to the front. So they really have to trust you and listen.
Jimmy Fairclough, who was first on the course, now approaching obstacle 5. Obstacle 5 would contain 5 knockdowns, so 5 opportunities to make mistakes.
Yeah, this is another bowl. You can see that's quite a steep pull they have to do to turn on an angle like that. And that affects the carriage, because you have to use your brake a lot when you're on these hills. If you don't use your brake coming down the hill, here we'll see it. He needs to use his brake, because that can push his wheelers out of the turn that he wants to go at. So you kind of have to think about the forces of the carriage and how they're pushing your horse. So a little bit of brake coming down the hill can really make the turn a lot easier for a horse. So they don't have to hold the carriage back while they're turning. And then we go up through E. You can see that's actually quite a steep hill to turn on.
A shot of the orange balls there, which are the knockdowns, 2 penalties. Should you knock one down? Obstacle 5. Titled Wright Brothers, hence the biotech middle, because the Wright brothers used to practice their flying skills down here in North Carolina as famous aviators. And just going back to the brake, it's a foot brake. Is that affecting all 4 wheels, or do you have a separate brakes for different wheels?
Yeah, that's a great question. You have separate brakes for the back and the front axles. So for the most part, most people only use their rear brake for things, unless you're going down a really steep hill. But just like with a motorcycle, you wouldn't want to step on the front brake only. That can lead to disaster.
Anthony Horde just approaching obstacle 2. 1 minute 24.63. Anthony Horde through obstacle 1.
And he's charging in there. These leaders look very keen. And you can see that's quite a small circle to be trotting a four-in-hand around.
And let's just talk about the knockdowns for a minute, because in this obstacle 2, there are no knockdowns because the fences are very, very secure. Does that mean, is that the reason that he's going a little bit quicker? Is that because there isn't a risk of a knockdown?
It could be, you know, like sometimes a knockdown is a little bit of a mental thing for people. It's, you know, I know sometimes you see a knockdown and you're extra careful, that will slow you down. Or you don't want to be looking at it because it'll just take you to the knockdown. So yeah, he can go a little bit more forward here because he doesn't have to worry about that. If he hits the rail, our carriages are made to bounce off of these rails, so nothing to get stuck. You can see the rails on the side of the carriage. They can scrape alongside if they do hit a post, but so he can really test his horses out in here before he gets there.
I think we should give a special mention to the backstepper, because that isn't the safest place in the world to be right now.
No, you can get flung off of there for sure. But their job is very important because if you miscalculate a turn, they can jump the carriage over a little bit. And also when you're going at speed and you're going around a turn, they have to sit down. You'll see there's a cushion on the back step. That's not for them to sit and relax. That's for them to, they almost hang out of the side to keep the carriage on the ground.
Good shot from the hoist.
Yeah. And you can see anyone who watched the eventing coverage, the eventing coverage is so exciting, but it's just one horse. And here you can see how large of a turnout it is with the leaders all the way back to the back step getting through here.
Obstacle 6 now, Jimmy Fairclough.
Here he goes into A.
This one entitled Coastal Carolina. And we should give our thoughts to those people living on the coast of Carolina after that hurricane devastated much of it.
So Jimmy took the very short route to A to B. Did you see that zigzaggy route? And that is a very technical route that he took there. So he had to slow down a bit. But then this hazard opens up, so he'll put on the gas a little bit to make up some time. And he's going to roll back into D right here. But you can see the wheelers really, it takes a lot to get the carriage momentum back up again once you're in the water. And the sailboats were a very exciting jump, I know, during eventing.
Jimmy Fairclough through obstacle 5, 1 minute 10.86, and his time for obstacle 6, 1 minute 2 seconds, 0.39.
Oh, this is a great shot of the leaders coming through here. And you can see the water's not that deep, but these wheelers are having to really pull that carriage, and you see the water coming off of there. And these are nice solid posts here to drive around.
Dino Mazurek for Poland as an individual approaching obstacle 4. Obstacle 2, Mazurek, 1 minute 17.78. Quickest through obstacle 2 at the moment, Anthony Horde for France. Mazurek, 1 minute 5.67 through obstacle 3, currently the quickest through obstacle 3.
And you can see Peter taking his loops there. So when he takes a loop, that's his leaders. That's how he turns the leaders. But he's not turning the wheelers. You can't just pull your hands right and left, or you'd pull the whole team. So there he goes to take a loop right there. That means he's turning his leaders to the left.
Good shot of the belt, the safety belt.
Yeah, the safety belt.
To retain him.
And there's the navigator, and now he has to switch sides because they're turning the other direction. He doesn't want to stay on the outside. This is a great shot of the hill here. And you see how quick he has to change his hands. You can't be late on your turns or you've gone past your gate. And these guys are being very obedient. I think he's talked his leaders into behaving now, so they're doing a great job. And you can see the navigator also changes their weight. So Josh there on the top step, he has to change his weight too to help with the carriage, especially when you have some hills.
And he truly looks to have his team in order now.
Okay, so here we have some more great views through the water. And this is, okay.
A new driver on the course for Belgium. Dries de Greek. Overnight dressage score 61.47 in 17th place as an individual, and Team Belgium currently in 4th place on 102.76, just 0.1 of a penalty ahead of Germany, who are in 5th. Current leaders overnight in the team, Team US 77.1, and one of those team members, Jimmy Fairclough, is on the course at the moment, was to get us underway here on day 2 of the FEI driving, the marathon. And we're looking at Mazurek for Poland.
Christoph waving to the camera. So you see they have a little bit of a rest here with the 1 kilometer between hazards, and Peter again is letting his leaders help with the pulling up these hills. And you know, from the video, it doesn't seem like these are big hills, but anybody that is a jogger knows that jogging on the treadmill is so much easier than when you go out jogging through the woods. And the grass here too, the turf is very good, the footing's very good, but the grass sometimes does have a little bit of pull on the carriage. Like it'll roll faster there on the hard pack than on the grass.
So into obstacle 5, 5 knockdowns set up by course designer Richard Nicol. Peter Mazurek through obstacle 4, 1 minute 28.
So there, just his leader just miscalculated there. But you see the knockdown was on the other side, so that's good. It didn't knock down. Good for you, Peter. But he recovered from that quite well. And through B. And you can see this is pretty tight for the forehand. Some these leaders aren't liking to go with these aggressive turns. Sometimes that's the way Richard makes it. That might be the only way to go.
Well, you have a new fastest time through obstacle 1. Dries the Greek for Belgium, 1 minute 10.47 for Dries de Groot for Belgium in the fastest through obstacle 1 at the moment. Anthony Horde also set a new record at the moment through obstacle 2 on just 1 minute 0.67 for the second, and he's also, Anthony Horde for France, the fastest through obstacle 3, 56.47, the first one to actually get well under a minute. So Anthony Horde going very, very well indeed for France. Peter Mazurek leaves obstacle 5, 1 minute 21.27.
All right, this is Jimmy again. He's doing great on these tight turns. You can see Jimmy likes to take the short route, and he makes it work. Oh, there we have a little bit of problem. The leaders are guessing which side to go. So right there, he only has his voice really to encourage them, and they needed to back up a little bit and go. One of the things about the leaders is you hope that they both agree to go on the same side of the post.
And we're watching Jimmy Fairclough for the United States at obstacle 7. In the hollow.
Just into obstacle 2 now, the 4 Tryon triangle.
107, 1 minute 7.31 for Jimmy Fairclough through obstacle 7, the only driver at present to have negotiated obstacle 7, being the first on the course.
And there he goes, galloping out of the hazard.
And Jimmy, the first to drive,
you know, with that last hazard with the golden, oh, here we go with the Lipizzanus. These are some beautiful Lipizzanus.
Now for the Czech Republic, Jiří Libaskil Jr. 62.95 his dressage score, this individual representing the Czech Republic in 18th place overnight. Obstacle 1. Fastest time was obstacle 1, 1 minute 10.47 seconds, set by Dries de Greek for Belgium.
And Jiří's grown up in driving. His family drives. His father is quite a famous Willingham driver. And these Lipizzan stallions are from the national stud in the Czech Republic. And he's a brave marathon driver. You can see these strong Lipizzans don't slow down at all in the water. They're just powering through there.
I was just keeping a close eye on the clock because it was looking very fast indeed. Looking to beat 1 minute 10 seconds.
Yeah. Did he stop the yeah.
1 minute 7. We've got
Good
a new
job.
leader in obstacle 1. Jiří Nevesil Jr. for the Czech Republic. 1 minute 7.7. 1 minute 7.7. Great shots
Yeah.
of these obstacles.
And you can see these horses are so strong. You know, these stallions are just powering through the water. The Czech Republic should be very proud of their breeding program right now. Okay.
For France, Anthony Horde. Obstacle 5.
Let's see the time that he can put on this one.
The time for Jimmy Fairclough from the United States in obstacle 5. That's the fastest time so far, 1 minute 10.86.
You can see how the space really evaporates once the forehand gets in there. When you're looking at it before the horses get in there, it doesn't look so bad. You can see there how the navigator on the back step really has to lean out when you're turning, coming down the hill. That can be the most dangerous time of in the hazards. And he's really doing good keeping up his speed through that turn.
Fastest time through obstacle 5, 1 minute 10.86.
Oh. So you see his right leader there, he had to jump himself over, but that's what those leaders have to be a little bit independent out there and have to be quick thinking on their feet.
And a new fastest time. Anthony Horde at the moment for France is hitting some records here. He's now got the fastest time at obstacle 5, 1 minute 7.55. So Anthony Horde has completed obstacle 5, is now the fastest at 4 of those 5 obstacles. He didn't have a very good first obstacle, in 5th place at 1 minute 24 for Anthony Horde for France. Jiří Nevesil Jr. is the leading time at the obstacle 1 minute 7.7.
And you saw in that last turn, you can really see how the back stepper navigator pulled the carriage over when they just were a little bit too close to the post there. And here these Lipizans are just doing great through here. And he's keeping up his speed really well with the carriage in here. This can get so tight that you really can get hung up, and once you slow down in this hazard, it's hard to keep going. And also, you can see this when he's turning real tight. His wheelers are fantastic. See how this wheeler... Oh, he has a break in his harness. He has a break in his harness. When they hit that post, his pole strap fell off. He probably doesn't know it right now because you can't see that from the carriage. When he gets out, he'll have to stop. Somebody will alert him to that pole strap.
So, a bit of drama for Jiří Nevesil Jr. for the Czech Republic. He's been going very well indeed, but he's now got a harness break, but he's outside of the obstacle, so he's got time to repair it before he gets back on track.
Yeah. But depending on the break, I mean, he might... Let's hope he has some duct tape or an extra snap. So this is Anthony Horde again through the water obstacle.
Fastest through obstacle 6 was the first on the marathon course. Jimmy Fairclough, 1 minute 2.39. Anthony Horde just stopped the clock, 1 minute 19.5.
Okay, so this is Jimmy in obstacle 8. He's just done that pull up the big hill we talked about to this, so we'll see how much gas he still has left in the tank.
So approaching the end of the 8.2 kilometers of this section B. Here, Jimmy Fairclough for the United States, overnight in 11th place as an individual, but a member of the Team US, who are overnight leaders. So coming towards the end of the marathon, Jimmy Fairclough for the United States will be the first home on the marathon course.
And this is up in the arena too, so the footing is quite good, and these boxes are a little bit bigger, plus there's a little bit more room in here, so they can really keep a flowing pace through here and get up some speed. So it's great for the spectators, and it's also nice for the horses to be able to pull through that.
Seconds, had lots of horsepower left at the end of the
United
course.
States looking for their first team medal in the FEI driving here at the 2018 FEI World Equestrian Games. It must be a great relief to get back home.
Yeah, and you know, Jimmy's really been an inspiration to many of us American drivers. I know that he and Chester have been very good friends since Chester was in high school and started driving pairs, and so Jimmy's really helped all of us in American driving throughout the years.
Now we've got Anthony Horde at the obstacle 6. Fastest through is the man that's finished the course, the fastest through obstacle 6, Jimmy Fairclough, 1 minute 2.39.
And so here we see the arrival fusions going very nicely through here.
Correction on that, it's Peter Mazurek Dries Degerek for Belgium. Dries Degerek for Belgium.
Now you see he's driving with no gloves. Some people drive with no gloves, and I'm like that. And sometimes in the water, especially, I don't like my gloves to get wet and slippery. You need to be able to hold your loops. So you can really see how these horses are just really focused on their job. The wheelers know they have to pull the carriage, and the leaders know they have to make their way through the gates.
Anthony Horde has just set a new time at obstacle 6, 1 minute and 0.72 of a second for the Frenchman, Anthony Horde, at obstacle 6, another leading time. 5 of the obstacles of the 6 that he has negotiated is now in the lead for France, Anthony Horde.
1:00.72 for Anthony Horde, 15.18.
And they look great. They look fresh, ready to go.
Jimmy Fairclough completing for the United States. This did Wrigley Miller de Carmen, then followed by Chester Weber for Team US.
And Jimmy's horses are, you know, they're always very, very athletic. He loves the more thoroughbred type of horses with a lot of stamina and strength. And you can see there his reins are buckled. You see the buckle on his reins with a little bit of Velcro there. That's how we can set them. And that is your neutral for driving, and then you take your loops. Oh, here we go.
This is George von Stein for Germany. Overnight in 12th place, 53.86, and Team Germany in 5th, 102.82. George von Stein for Germany, one of the most celebrated drivers that we have here at the 2018 World Equestrian Games.
Yeah,
reigning German champion.
You can see how the wheelers, when they make the turn, the leaders turn, the wheelers have to put their head almost between the butts of the leaders. And that's how the carriage stays out on the turn and doesn't hit the toes. So it's, they have to, the wheelers, a real good wheeler just knows that's where his head needs to be, pulls to the outside.
No one's broken a minute yet coming out of obstacle 2, but George von Stein has now broken a minute, 59.38. George von Stein for Germany goes the quickest through obstacle 2.
And this is Peter Mazurek through the the Eagle Hazard. You can see he's being a little bit careful. Some of the things I think that the course designers either they think about or don't think about is these animals are quite lifelike, and sometimes the horses see those out of their blinkers and may think it's a real thing. Like the giant squirrels, I'm surprised that hasn't posed a problem for some people.
Peter Mazurek for Poland in obstacle 7.
weaving his way through. That's great. There he goes through F. He's galloping up.
Peter Masrick through obstacles 5 and 6 in third place.
16. So that again is about 9 seconds slower than Jimmy Fairclough through there, but just looking for the accuracy, especially with those couple
So
of
in driving too, on the marathon, we all wear vests in case you get ejected.
Now we have second team member for Belgium, Glenn Geertz, overnight 55.57 with his dressage score in 13th place overnight, and just 29 years old and already won 4 Belgium championships. Glenn Geertz, team member number 2 for Belgium. Team Belgium overnight in 4th place.
These KWPNs are so flashy. I love their blazes, and they're really goers.
George von Stein, 1 minute 2.28
You see, he picked up a lot of speed for that A turn.
at obstacle 1, and that's the time that Glenn Geertz needs to beat. 1 minute 2 seconds, 0.28.
So you can see he really is great about keeping his carriage going. The momentum of his carriage just seems to push them through. And he really kept up his speed through the water there. They don't seem to be phased by the sprinklers.
It is extraordinary how their blazes are nearly identical.
Yeah, I know, they're gorgeous. And now he stayed in the water longer than most, so he may think that that's the shortest route, and with the way he keeps up his speed, that might not affect his time. That is his strategy there. These are very, very strong forward horses. Okay.
And that's a shoe coming off one of the horses of George von Stein, I think.
That's too bad. Good thing it didn't hit the carriage and bounce up. Sometimes that can hit the drivers.
National champion or two-time national champion.
So he must have repaired his pole straps
And was a
here.
member of the
Jerry Neversil
14 team.
Jr. for the Czech Republic as an individual at obstacle
Went for
4.
Belgium. Under the bridge.
So there you
Fastest
see
time
it.
at obstacle 4, 1 minute
Really looking for that
10.8.
tight
Now
turn,
remember how
grabbing two
heavy these
roots of his
carriages are.
leaders,
He has to
flipping it
jump
back
around.
out,
Okay, they backed
and
up.
they are through dead center on that
There you
turn.
go. That was a good shot of that.
Nice drive to start this course as he turns right-handed down through the B gate.
As Jeff mentioned,
It's
Glenn,
like
a
threading
three-time
a needle.
full member of
I
the
know.
World Cup circuit over in Europe.
Threading
and
a
that's
needle
important
with
because it is the
just
top
pushing
10
a little
ranked
string.
Oh, hit it again.
in the world after the outdoor summer season. You were invited to participate in that
And
World
like I
Cup.
said, this is, it's a little bit deceiving because with these, you see how up until this point we've had all boxes, but now you have these single rail fences. So that can be a little deceiving to the horse's eye and to the people's eye. The leaders may not know what side they need to go on that.
I mean, look at that turn.
Yeah, that's tight. And there he goes. Oh. And you see there, the leaders in combined driving, they are coupled together. So there's a strap that puts the breast collar of leaders together. So we have less chance of them going in the opposite direction. Sometimes in pleasure driving, you'll see they don't have a strap there coupled.
I'm just thinking about communication. We've got the reins and the driver's got a voice.
Yeah.
Does he speak to the horses? I mean,
Oh, yes.
I've got do they have different voice calls for different horses?
Well, we always, especially in four-in-hand driving, we always teach the horse their name. We say their name before the command. So, like, say your wheelers tend to be a little bit slower, where the leaders, like I said, are a little bit bolder. So sometimes you want to really have your wheelers push, pull harder, but you don't want your wheelers to take off. I mean, your leaders to take off. So you'll say their name and then the command, like, trot.
And clearly they recognise that.
They know their name, yeah. They know their name.
We're now watching Anthony Horde
after the outdoor summer season who are invited to participate in that
Obstacle
World Cup. So
8.
it really is a litmus test of quality.
Sometimes too, when you yell your leader's name, if you know they're debating what side of the post to go on, you can yell their name, and then they're like, oh, they know which side I have to go. Now they're fast.
That's the one, the launching bridge for Glenn Yates.
Anthony Horde through obstacle 7. Apologies for that. It wasn't 8, it was through obstacle 7. And then the new fastest time, Anthony Horde, who has now gone into the lead at obstacle 7 and broken that 1 minute, 58.63. So after 7 obstacles, Anthony Horde is now in the lead of 5 of them. And George von Stein has knocked Anthony Horde into second place at obstacle 2. And he's just broken 1 minute there too, George von Stein for Germany, 59.38. Fastest time through obstacle 2, George von Stein.
So here we have Jiri going into the Kitty Hawk hazard. And you can see these leaders actually have a flare nasal strip on. So that helps them with to get more oxygen, and it helps with their stamina. It is real hot here. But they're doing great on these ups and downs here. They're very powerful. And they seem to recovered from their pull strap break. Everything's good. It's a tight turn to go back through A backwards. Once they've gone through a gate, they have to go alphabetically, A, B, C, D, E, F. Once they've gone through a gate, it's dead, so he doesn't get any penalties for going back through A again. So here we go, this is a tight turn to come down that E turn. The leaders are looking great.
Fastest time at obstacle 5 at the moment, 1 minute 7.55. Very quick time set by Anthony Horde. Peter Mazurek for Poland, approaching the final obstacle on the marathon course, obstacle 8. Time for Peter Mazurek at the obstacle 7, 1 minute 16.13, third of 3 at obstacle 7 at the moment for Peter Mazurek for Poland.
Railings in there, just near the Mars Marina.
So this is once again after that great big hill, and you can see Peter's taking the inside routes, a little bit shorter routes. And sometimes we will do that if you know, if you're trying to save them for the end. But now he's going a little bit more forward here.
Second of the day, taking on that challenge.
And these boxes are real solid, so it helps turn your horses, whereas the more open rails are a little bit more difficult. You know, it's a visual barrier for them. And there they go. They look fresh after that hill. They don't seem to care.
And now we have the scores for Jimmy Fairclough, United States, 189.52, 189.52, the first team home with a completed score for the United States. Jimmy Fairclough, 189.52.
And the horses look real fresh and ready to go. This is George von Stein coming to obstacle 5. Yeah, we lost a shoe early on. We'll have to see how they handle that. Good thing we have nice footing here.
Back in the draft, all 4 horses pulling hard with a gallop out of the obstacle at 3.
Anthony Horde approaching his final obstacle, obstacle 8.
Well, here's interesting. Anthony Ord is right up at the top of the hill, already driving obstacles.
Titled The Sunburst, Anthony Ord is leading at just 4 of the obstacles now. George von Stein has gone into the lead in 1 minute 8.7 seconds at obstacle 4. So George von Stein leads on 2 of the obstacles 2 and 4 at the moment for Germany.
You know, the drivers also can hear the announcers, and they know what place they're in, or if the people behind them are catching up to them. So sometimes they'll turn on the gas. We can see Anthony doing that here. He's really galloping through this hazard. He's really keeping up his speed, and there he goes, galloping home.
And the marathon completed for France is Anthony Ord.
And there's Brasseur on this fat tire bike. Felix Brasseur is their chef d'équipe.
So George von Stein now approaching obstacle 5.
And there he goes, he's galloping straight in there.
Very kind hands here as he takes a look.
Anthony Hord's fastest time through obstacle 5, 1 minute 7.55 seconds. Von Stein in the lead at 2 and 4 at the moment. Team Germany in 5th place overnight, and scores counting both as for individuals and for the team. A bit of miscommunication there, Wendy.
Yeah.
That's expensive.
Yes, yes. That counts time. Now he has to go try to find another route. He has to make sure he doesn't go through a gate out of order. And there he goes. He gets to B. George has his wife on there as his top step, so I'm sure she'll tell him how to fix that problem.
I'm pretty sure she will.
But yeah, that one of the things, it's kind of shakes you as a driver, because you have to have a backup plan. And these drivers have walked these hazards over and over again. They know their route down to every little detail. And so when that happens, you have to have a backup plan, and you have to know where all your gates are, so you don't inadvertently give yourself 20 penalties by going through a gate out of order. But he seemed to get that under control. That's another thing that your backstepper can really help you, your navigator can really help you with.
Well, as a result of that miscommunication, the clock has stopped at 1:25.39 for George von Stein for Germany, and that's going to be a bit of a setback.
Yeah. And since they're all added together, you could win all the hazards and then have one really bad one, and that could really affect your total score on marathon day. You see here, this route that we've seen the other people take through the Hatteras hazard is very tight, A to B, and Jiri's chosen to do the tight route, but he was walking through there because maybe the tight route is shorter even if you go slow, rather than the long route. You'd be galloping and you might tire up your horses. So there's times on marathon where you might want to take a very short route and just be careful about it, and that may be a faster time than running around the outside.
Jiri Nesvasil for the Czech Republic at obstacle 6. Fastest time through obstacle 6 at the moment. Anthony Hord, 1 minute 0.72. And he stops the clock, 1 minute 14.02. Jiri Nesvasil. That's going to put him in 4th place.
Okay, here's Peter Mazurek. He ended on a penalty points of 209.97.
So Peter Mazurek for Poland into 2nd place. Only 2 scores come in, but 209.97. Peter Mazurek for Poland as an individual competing here in 2nd place. 209.97. His completed score after the marathon. Day 2 of the FEI driving.
Set by both the jury and the course designer.
Now we're watching 29-year-old Glenn Keerts for Belgium at obstacle 4.
In the water, again, lots of drag. That water is just about up to the back.
You can see how tight that is around that one single
into a slow trot through these obstacles right now.
Target at obstacle 4 is the Von Stein time of 1 minute 08. That's the time Glenn Keerts has got to beat. Belgium at the moment just 1 place as a team ahead of Germany by less than 1 penalty point. So every second, every part of a second will be counting towards the team scores. Very close indeed between Geertz, between Belgium and Germany.
Oh, that's great how he threaded through there.
Time to beat 1.08.
Taking all the short routes in here. Those rings that you see on the side of the bridle of the wheelers.
Goes into the lead. Sorry,
oh,
Wendy.
Good. Yeah, no,
107.8. Glenn Geertz for Belgium goes into the lead at obstacle 4. Quickest time, 1.07.8. Now we have one of the very familiar names of the sport at obstacle 1, Koos de Ronde for the Netherlands.
And Koos has a very experienced navigator for his team. It's his wife, Marie. And they're a great team.
Koos de Ronde, defending team champions from 4 years ago in Normandy. 2 members of that team here, the teams of 3, 2 best scores count. And his teammate Ijsbrand Schada, who was in that trio in Normandy, also here in Tryon. Koos de Ronde for the Netherlands. Multi-medalled Dutch driver at obstacle 1. And the fastest time at obstacle 1 at the moment, 1 minute, 1 second, .95.
You see Koos is really turning on the gas here. Oh, you saw the left leader there spooked a little bit at the waterfall. So like I said, that's something that you have to think about as a driver, and it's not something we actually train for. They handled it well.
Koos de Ronde's overnight score for the dressage, 56.93 in 14th place of the 19, and we've seen Koos de Ronde be much further up the leaderboard after the dressage. So he's got a bit of time to make up. Koos de Ronde's time, 104.58 at obstacle 1, 104.5, which puts him into 4th place. And we have a new leader, oh no, in 2nd place, sorry, in 2nd place, 197.86 for Anthony Horde, 197.86 into 2nd place, Anthony Horde for France.
In the water, again, lots of drag. That water is just about up to the back step of the vehicle. And into a slow trot.
As well as checking the horses before they start on board. The veterinary staff very attentive to the horses' well-being after the marathon.
So here we have the flashy KWPNs again of Glenn Geertz. Coming around Chimney Rock. To come down the hill into Hazard 5.
Geertz for Belgium. Overnight 13th place on 55.57, his dressage score. Fastest time so far through this obstacle 5, 1.07.55 set by Anthony Horde.
He did great on that post around the knockdown. You can see how close they need to get to make that turn, but you're taking a risk turning around the knockdown, but he kept it up. And his leaders are very built through here.
We had the dressage yesterday. We're on the marathon course today, Wendy. We've got the cones tomorrow. They use different carriages for each of the disciplines, do they? Yeah,
they use the same carriage for dressage and cones. The marathon carriage is a specialized carriage. Back in the day, they used to use the antique carriages for all phases, but they didn't always make it all the way home. Our carriages nowadays are pretty strong. You can see how this marathon carriage, there's times when they have hit the post, they don't stick on there because of the rails on the side, and they're also, you know, very solid, so they're meant to, if you hit something at speed, it's difficult to break it. And he's coming flying in here.
Koos de Ronde at obstacle 2. 4th place at the first obstacle coaster run for the Netherlands. Netherlands, the team champions, the defending champions.
You can see how powerful his leaders are and how they're always looking. They're looking to where they're going, and they're just waiting for like a little cue from coast to tell them where to go. And as soon as they see their gap, they're going for it. They just go forward into it, and that's what makes a good leader. And Coast, of course, is a fantastic marathon driver.
Obstacle 2, best time 59.38 from George von Stein. He's just got a new time, 57.39. Coaster-Rond looking for his 3rd consecutive team gold medal here at the 2018 FEI World Equestrian Games. Takes the quickest time through Obstacle 2 at the moment, 57.39. Coaster-Rond for the Netherlands. Now for France, Thibault Coudray, 19th as an individual at the World Equestrian Games 4 years ago, and Team France in 3rd place overnight. Thibault Coudray for France, overnight dressage score 52.56 for this team.
You can see he chose to go over the bridge to get to A with these big, strong KWPN horses. They're really bold and they're really strong.
I find it very interesting that the drivers do take different, there isn't many options, but they're using different options, and that will be to do how they feel that their horses can cope with particular angles and turns.
Yeah, and also like if they're worried about the terrain, they're not going to add another hill, because there's enough hills here. If they're not worried, if their horses are very strong and they train at home with a lot of hills, that maybe think that the bridge is the fastest way. And some horses don't like water, so some horses are slower in the water than over a hill. It's those different, that's why they have to know their horses.
And here is the leader from Obstacle 1, Jeremy Vortaz for Switzerland. Here is an individual, and it's stopped the clock at 1 minute, 1 second, 95 at Obstacle 1. Jeremy Vortaz. Now approaching Obstacle 5, the silver medalist from the World Cup driving in Gothenburg last year. World Cup driving in indoor competition, so not this massive expanse outside, and lying in 16th place overnight as an individual here.
Something very interesting about this team is they're quite a bit smaller than the other horses. They're maybe 15'2", maybe 16 hands max, but that makes them very fast through a lot of these turns, but things like the water and the hills can be harder on them. That's, if you use the same horses for the indoor teams, they may not be used to all this terrain, but once again, they're from Switzerland, so I'm sure they're used to a lot of hills.
Look how close.
Yeah. But I love these leaders. I saw him in dressage. This is one of my favorite teams here at the show. And you can see how the leaders are, you know, they communicate with each other almost. They're buddies. They know where they're going. They go together. And he's keeping up a good pace through here. Takes a long way out.
Current leading time at Obstacle 5, 1.07.27. Glenn Geertz for Belgium. 1:0.1. We've got a new leader from Obstacle 5. Jeremy Vortaz as an individual, 1 minute, 1.64.
Even though he's asking them to get out of the way for the wheelers to do the work, but they're helping out. These 4 horses working as one unit around.
And we're just now seeing the first of the 3 Belgian teams, Dries de Griek now been through obstacle 8 and in third place at obstacle 8, 0.59, 59.6 seconds through obstacle 8 in third place. The Greek in a very quick time in second place at obstacle 7, 1 minute 5.83. Thibault Coudry at obstacle 2. In 5th place at obstacle 1 at the moment, Coudry, 1 minute 07.41. Currently there, Jeremy Vortaz, 1 minute 01.95.
And these guys are going very well through this hazard. I jinxed him.
Nerve-wracking.
I jinxed him. But like I said, sometimes they guess, they are looking at the gaps.
Anticipation, I suppose, yeah.
It's just like jumping. So that when your horse sees a jump, some take you to it. And
you say it's just like jumping. Can I just say, Wendy, that we have got some of the finest show jumpers. In fact, we've got the finest show jumpers in the world here.
Yeah.
I don't think any of them would swap riding their horse over for a jumps to drive a team of 4 horses around these obstacles. I feel very confident about that.
Well, they might try it and get addicted like the rest of us.
Team USA and overnight leaders in the driving, and of course they took the team gold medal in the FEI jumping yesterday.
That's right.
George von Steen approaching obstacle 7. Anthony Horde's got the fastest time through obstacle 7, 58.63 seconds. That's the time that von Steen's got to beat, 58.63. Von Steen, who's in the lead at obstacle 6, 55.66, the first driver to break 1 minute at obstacle 6. These times are coming down and down and down.
Yeah, it's getting harder and harder to beat these guys. And you can see he takes these very, very technical routes. You can see how he plans ahead, because you'll see the horses, the leaders' heads are turned before he makes the gap. So he'll turn them so they kind of know where they're supposed to be going, and then he'll allow them to go with his outside hand. And the left leader knows where the out is. He knows when he goes through F, he's out.
A little bit of miscue there. Looked at one of those obstacles.
George von Steen completes obstacle 6 in 55.66, and on obstacle 7 in 1 minute 0.2. Now we're seeing Jerry Nespasil Jr. for the Czech Republic at his final obstacle. Quickest time through there, Anthony Horde for France, 55.2.
And he's keeping up a good pace through these big boxes. They finish strong. His leaders still are ready to go.
Obstacle 8, quickest time over, 55.2 for Jerry Neville Jr. That's the time he's chasing. He's not going to make that. And he stops the clock under a minute. Into third place at obstacle 8 go Jerry Neville Jr. So he's completed the marathon course on day 2 here of the FEI driving at the 2018 FEI World Equestrian Games. Now, Jeremy Vortaz approaching obstacle 6. Quickest time at obstacle 6, Germany, 55.66 at the moment. Vortaz has gone into the lead at obstacle 5, 1 minute 1.64. Just looking at that time of Vortaz's at obstacle 5, he is 6 seconds quicker than the next in second place, Glenn Geertz.
And this is like I said, these horses are a little bit smaller than the rest of the team, so you can take these shorter routes, and you can see they go quite fast through here. And the water, which sometimes we worry about water or hills slowing down a smaller horse versus a larger horse, he came in here, barreling away, and the carriage never slowed down in the water. So these little guys are little powerhouses. And he did these tight A to B turns very quickly.
Jeremy Ortaz also the quickest at the moment through obstacle 1 minute 1 second, 0.95. So Ortaz in the lead at obstacle 1 and 5 at the moment.
Stops the clock at 58 seconds. Your Goldstein a touch faster at 55 seconds.
And into second place for Ortaz at obstacle 6, 58.58. Leader there, Von Stein, 55.66. Now we have a new driver on the course for Team Germany, Christoph Sandmann, in 8th place overnight as an individual with a dressage score of 51.03, approaching obstacle 1.
And Christoph has his daughter Anna, who also is a very accomplished four-in-hand driver, as his navigator on the top step.
Third World Equestrian Games for Christoph Sandmann, and looking to go one better for his team. They got team silver 4 years ago in Normandy, and they've got some ground to make up because Germany currently lying 5th in the team rankings after the dressage. But George von Stein for Germany, who's already well on his way around the marathon course, is setting some good times, although I'm looking now at some of the times coming through for Costa Ronda, for the Netherlands, who's looking for his 3rd consecutive team gold here at Tryon. Costa Ronda looking very, very fast indeed. Now we're looking at the score for Dries de Griek into second place, 1.97, 197.3, just half a penalty behind, or in front of, I should say, Anthony Horde. So in second place, 1.97.3, Dries de Griek, the youngest driver on the course here at 23 years old, goes into second place for Belgium. The leader at the moment, still Jimmy Fairclough for the United States, 189.52. George von Stein approaching the final obstacle here at Tryon. 8.2 kilometers the length of the marathon track.
Better. We keep seeing the leaderboards change. The man who's changed a lot of the leaderboards is George von Stein.
George von Stein for Germany. 3rd obstacle 1, 2nd 2,
love to win the marathon today, but in fact it's been overtaken,
and 3rd at 4. Had that awful drive through obstacle 3, von Stein.
One of the most complicated on course at obstacle 6.
And in the lead, von Stein at obstacle 6, and in second at obstacle 7.
As you mentioned, hot on his heels right now, busted on it. He's in obstacle number 5.
You know, with these boxes with the flowers on top, it's the horses can't see around the corner, really, so they don't know what's coming until they turn the corner. So that can sometimes be distracting for them. But these guys are doing great through here. Really picking up the pace.
Quickest through obstacle 8, the target for von Stein, 55.2. That's France Anthony Horde score. Costa Ronda leading at 2, 3, 4, and now approaching obstacle 5. In 3rd place at obstacle 1, Costa Ronda. Ortaz for Switzerland's got the best time at obstacle 5. So the time that Costa Ronda has to beat is 1 minute 1 second, 0.64.
Costa's such a technical driver. He really excels at these kind of hazards, and he always plans his turns and keeps up his speed. And you can see his leaders are just charging ahead there. So we're going to go up the hill to E, and we'll see how he makes the heat. So he went the long way around. You see how he, everyone before that has been making that sharp, sharp turn down the hill.
10 seconds to get home if he wants to go into the lead.
Okay. So you see that right leader, he second-guessed that little post. Those skinny posts are difficult for them to see, too, because of the horse's peripheral vision.
And that's prevented him getting close to that time. So 105 for Coaster Run, 105.69 into second place at obstacle 5 for Coaster Run for the Netherlands. Into 5th place goes Jiří Nevesil Jr. for the Czech Republic, 210.49, 210.49 for Jiří Nevesil Jr. for the Czech Republic, competing here as an individual. All the drivers, of course, have individual scores, but some of the drivers on the course, members of teams also.
Is that Elton John? Sorry.
Jeremy Vutaz for Switzerland, approaching obstacle 7. Vutaz, who's in second place at obstacle 6, but has took the lead at obstacle 5. He's had a very good time there of 1 minute 1 second .64, and we just saw the defending team gold medalist Coaster Run go 4 seconds slower than Vutaz in obstacle 5.
Langiert's coming to the end of the course next.
Thibault Coudry for France at obstacle 4. Quickest time there, Coaster Run 1.03.
Christophe Sandman in the second, making his way through the triangles. A bit of a hesitation there, miscommunication.
France, Team France overnight in 3rd place in the bronze medal position. Now, this is a slow time for France for Coudry at obstacle 4. Of course, 3 members in each of the teams, and for the team scores, one of those can be discounted. So they only count the 2 best scores of the team of 3 for the team medals.
Right, but they, if someone gets eliminated on course or any phase, they can't use that person's score.
Sure,
so
absolutely.
It's important that they do their best, but they cannot get eliminated.
And what would be, great rider cam.
Oh, great.
One to watch here. He's had the fastest drive we've seen on the first part of the course.
Christoph Sandman for Germany with the new rider cam brought in by the host broadcasters. Christoph Sandman, 51.03 his dressage score overnight. In 5th place at obstacle 1. Just going on to, you mentioned about the a possible elimination should things go. What's the most common reasons for an elimination, Wendy, in the marathon?
The most common reasons is forgetting a gate, so they have to go in order, A, B, C, D, E, F, right? But you can see sometimes there are 2 gaps for a gate, or sometimes a gap will look similar. You see the red always has to be on your right. But if you go through a gap, maybe A and F are next to each other, and you go through F instead of A, and you don't correct your mistake, that could end up in elimination.
We've got a new leader on marathon day here at the FEI driving. George von Stein for Germany, 184.1. 184.1, new leader into the gold medal position for George von Stein for Germany. And that is a boost for the German team. They didn't have a happy day yesterday, and George von Stein's dressage score was in fact the discounted score for Germany. Now Glenn Geertz on our screens for Belgium at obstacle 8. Geertz, who's second at obstacle 1, third at 2, 4th at 3, and 2nd at 4. And then 4th and 5th at the next 2 obstacles. Geertz at obstacle 8.
Lots of turns, many options of how to get from A to B to C and then through to the final.
He's being careful through here.
Just whilst we're watching Glenn Geertz for Belgium go through obstacle 8, Wendy, one other question for you.
Yeah.
we've seen one or two teams have to stop and make some adjustments and repairs, running repairs. What happens if another team catches up with them? Does that ever happen?
Well, I hate to admit it, but that's happened to me before when I first started driving pairs. But usually the TD will pull you over, they stop your time, and they'll allow people to go past, and then you just have to adjust it with the scores so that everybody knows who's coming and the way you're going.
Into obstacle 8. Time there. In fact, just finishing.
We're watching defending champion Costa Ronda team gold medalist 4 years ago, and the previous games that as well at Kentucky.
Interesting to see Glenn Gibbs
at obstacle 6.
And there you can really see how he has to put his wheelers right between his leaders when he makes the turn. See how they're right between the leaders' hind end, so they can really articulate that carriage and make the turn quick without falling in and hitting the posts.
Coming up the hill with a lot of energy, but the driver not pushing his team, very wisely taking his time through the post that time. Goes the Ronde through the marina.
That's a great shot of them coming through there.
The images are absolutely fantastic.
You know, that was oh, here we go. We have the rider cam. It's really interesting to think about how horses see, because they can't see directly in front of them. Plus, these horses all have blinkers on. That's why these individual posts, like this A post, can be difficult.
We've got a situation here. Is this Christoph Sandman now?
Oh, yeah, stuck on the post. So his navigators have to pull him off. There we go.
Are they allowed to get off the... They're not allowed to get off?
No, if they get off the carriage there, they have penalties. It's added to their score. So now this is shaking him a little bit. He's missed that turn.
Well, this is disappointing for Germany. We've just heard that George von Steen's gone into the lead, but we're watching some troublesome moments for Christoph Sandman, another member of the German team.
Hitting the post too can rattle the horses a bit, because the carriage is all of a sudden stopped and they're pulling, but they don't know what's going on behind them. So sometimes it's a little distracting for both driver and the horses. Takes a minute to get your composure back.
So Christoph Sandman at obstacle 4, current leader Costa Ronda, 1 minute 3 seconds, 0.1, 1 minute 3.1 time to beat. He's outside that time, Christoph Sandman. That it wouldn't be surprising because of the unfortunate hookups that he's had during the obstacle.
And there you can see further from the rider cam how close the posts are when you're driving at that speed with 4 horses.
Fabulous. You really get a sense of being there. I mean, you, of course, have been in that situation, being a driver of 4 horses.
They broke their telescopic whip, so they're trying to get their telescopic whip together.
We have a new driver on the course, the third of the 3 Belgium drivers, Edouard Simonet. Overnight score, 47.19, his dressage score, in 6th place. Edouard Simonet for Belgium.
And he is driving his Arabo Frisians. And they're really flying through this water.
Obstacle 1, current best score, 1 minute 1 second, 0.95, set by Jeremy Bortaz for Switzerland. That's the time that Edouard Simonet has got to beat. 1 minute 1.95.
You can see how he takes his loop. That's a great slow-mo of taking his loops there.
Costa Ronda completed obstacle 6 in 2nd place, 56.69, and the best, he's at obstacle 7 here we're watching, and he's got to beat 57.28, also set by Bortaz.
On his final turns in obstacle number 1, just starting on the marathon.
You can see these big moving horses just eat up the ground even at the trot. They cover so much much ground. They just flow through these hazards.
Watch the clock. 57.28, he's beaten the time. New leader at obstacle 7. The defending gold medalist from the team championship 4 years ago, Costa Ron, gets the quickest time at obstacle 7, 55.55. And now we have a new leader, Glenn Geertz for Belgium. A new leader, 182.48 for Glenn Geertz for Belgium. 182.48 goes into the gold medal position here. This day 2 of the FEI Driver. We had the dressage yesterday, we've got the cones coming tomorrow, but it's the marathon today. Christoph Sandmann for Germany, supporting the Ryder camp. And that is a perfect shot to show you what a ridiculously little amount of room that they've got.
And also you can see how far ahead you have to plan. I think that's the biggest hurdle when you start driving forehand from even singles or riding, is that he's planning his turns 30 feet before he has to plan them. And then he has to think about getting the carriage through. So he gets the leaders through, then he has to think about getting the carriage through. And that's why also your navigator, oh, he's hung up. So we'll get back to him.
Now Jeremy Vortaz has been setting some fast times around this marathon track. He's now at his last obstacle. Von Stein for Germany's got the quickest time at obstacle 8, 54.5.
Well, this little team doesn't seem tired at all. They're probably used to climbing up the Alps, so that last big long hill was nothing for these little guys, because they are still going strong.
So we're chasing 54.5. Jeremy Vortaz for Switzerland still in the #1 spot at obstacle 1 and obstacle 5. He set the 2 quickest times on those 2 obstacles. Just outside of 2 seconds outside the quickest time. So into, I would say it might even be 4th place, Jeremy Vortaz. 4th place for Jeremy Vortaz, obstacle 8, and completes the marathon course here.
So now we see the Rabo Frisians going through the boxes. Horseshoe jump hazard. Look at that.
Now,
spinning around that box.
When I see them spinning around like that, Wendy, I'm looking at their feet. The front feet of the wheelers look very close to the back feet of the leaders. Do they ever overreach them or anything?
They do sometimes, and sometimes people put bell boots on their hind feet of their leaders. I always showed like that with the bell boots on the hind feet. So, because sometimes they do get clipped by their buddies.
We're watching Edward Simonet at obstacle 3, 53.59 was this the quickest. That's Costa Ron, and Edward Simonet stops the clock at 57.63, which will put him into 5th place at obstacle 3. Quickest time, 53.59, Costa Ron, obstacle 3. It's a lovely shot of the lake that's been used for both the FEI driving and the cross-country course. And we mentioned the Wright brothers earlier, so very appropriately, there's a biplane. Whether that was planned or not, I don't know, but well done for picking that up. It was one of the obstacles on the marathon course in celebration that the Wright brothers, those great aviators, used to do some of their training here for their aircraft in North Carolina.
You know, the way this course is set up, it's in kind of a bowl situation, so it's really spectator friendly. You can see that over on the right-hand side of the screen where the trees are, that's where they're dropping off spectators, and then they can walk down the bridge, and all the spectator lanes are roped off, so they don't have to worry about getting in the way of the carriages. But you can, here we have some spectators having fun, but they can sit up on the hill and see a lot of hazards from just one area, so they can either follow the riders, the drivers they want to see, or they can picnic
And then that's a very interesting point, Wendy, because the designer for the marathon course,
Richard.
designer for the marathon course, and Richard, and also we were just watching Christoph Sandman's hook up there. The horse is absolutely fine. Water just been poured over it to cool it down. But what I want to just talk about the builders of the course, because interestingly and cleverly, the marathon designer Richard Nicol and Captain Mark Phillips of the cross-country course have both employed the same team, the builder, Eric Bull, who's a well-known builder. He used them to do both courses, so there was a similar feel. They can share part of the course, but also they wanted a nice theme through it, and they've done it extremely well.
Yeah.
Great to see Christoph Sandman's horse up and well.
And sometimes with those horses, I think he just got tangled up in the harness a bit, and at that point, we're talking about seconds shaving off here, so sometimes it's better to retire at that point for another day.
Thibaut Caudry for France at obstacle 7. Time to beat Costa Rodin, 55.55. So Christoph Sandman for Germany has retired off the course, which means that with a team of 3, Germany in 5th place, in a team of 3, they have now to count the scores of Marek Harm, who's just started on the course, and George von Stein, who is the current leader, currently in 2nd place on 184.1, George von Stein for Germany. So those 2 scores for Germany, von Stein and Harm, have got to be counted for the team positions.
So the leaders decided to go the other way, but they worked that out. Once you're outside of the hazard, that's okay. There's no penalty for that.
Now we're looking at Benjamin Ayod for France at obstacle 3, overnight 48.84, his individual dressage score, in 7th place overnight, Benjamin Ayod for France, and Team France in 3rd place. 13 penalties behind the Netherlands, who are in the silver medal position overnight after the dressage. France in bronze at the moment.
He had a bit of a bobble there, but he worked that out. Got the leaders going again. And there he goes.
Benjamin Ayod, 6th in the world rankings. Nickname the artist.
His horses are very relaxed. They know when they're out of the hazards, and they know it's time to rest. So that's very helpful to bring their heart rate down and to conserve energy. That's a hard thing to train, but he's done a good job.
I was just about to ask, is that something that you can train, or is that just the character of the horse? So we're seeing Costa Ronde in obstacle 8. Sorry, Wendy, we'll come back to that, because this is a critical moment, because Costa Ronde, the Netherlands, they are the reigning champions for the last 2 FEI World Equestrian Games. They're looking for a triple gold here. Costa Ronde for the Netherlands, completing the obstacle 8, the final obstacle on the marathon course here at Tryon. Obstacle 8, von Stein, 54.5. That's the time that Costa Ronde has got to beat. 54.5. 10 seconds to get home. .42. We have a new leader at obstacle 8. Costa Ronde is now the quickest time at 2 obstacles, 2, 3, 4, 7 and 8. Costa Ronde for the Netherlands, chasing gold here in Tryon. Now Edward Simonet at obstacle 4. Simonet for France.
I really love this team in dressage, because they go in such a block, and it's the same thing on marathon. They really seem to just act as one.
So the time set by Costa Ronde is the quickest so far at obstacle 4, 1 minute 3.1 seconds.
Costa's done it one more time.
29-year-old Edward Simonet 4th in the world rankings, chasing that coaster on time in obstacle 4. 1 minute, 3.1 seconds.
Clearly, marathon specialist, going to work on the
I think you saw the close-up of his reins. He has some stops on his reins. A lot of us drivers use the stops on the reins, and that helps it so that it doesn't slip through your hands, just like with driving, because with the marathon driving, your reins get wet, your hands get sweaty, your horses are sweaty, so that can really help a lot.
Will remain marathon specialists. They won't go to the indoor circuit. Very specialized teams of horses on local circuits by the drivers. Today it's all
And they still
about
have a lot of
marathon.
gas. Get up that hill.
Now just relax in between, because each of the obstacles have a timing going in and out. That's the times that we've been reading out, and so they can relax in between the obstacles. They do have to complete the we have a new leader. I'll come back to that. We have a new leader, Jeremy Vutas. He was making some very quick times, has gone into the lead, 182.01 into the lead for Switzerland. Here as an individual, 182.01. Jeremy Vutas for Switzerland goes into the gold medal position. So they slow down after the obstacles, but they have it in ultimate time. They've got to complete this marathon course, 32.17 minutes, 32 minutes, 17 seconds between that and 45 minutes,
Right.
and that's 14 kilometers per hour. on average.
Right. So they have a little time. They can't, most drivers know how much time they have to walk in between, so they kind of keep a running track of that in their mind.
Obstacle here in the golf course. A bit of a hang up on that first element.
They're going very fast through here, very bold.
Those leaders that he really wants those turns when he asks for
You can
them.
see how quickly he has to take his loops.
This time is a near leader up at the
Benjamin
front there.
Ayod, obstacle 4.
On the outside of all
Target
these
there,
turns,
Darone's
just,
1 minute,
slipping a little bit.
3.1. And that's not, he's not going to make it now.
Tight turn here.
Not with that
Wheeler's just
slight
held
communication
steady.
on the turn.
Leaders got out of the way,
Making an error.
through the gap.
And you can see how
Not sure that's what
the
he wanted,
carriage
but
kind
that's
of
what he got.
pushes
That's
the
what he's working
wheelers
with.
a little bit past their turn, and they got a little bit hung up there at that D gate. That's very tight in there to go towards the putting green.
So rough drive through the fourth
Yes,
for the French driver,
obstacle
Benjamin Ayod.
known as the
Out of
golf
obstacle.
course.
In a time of
In celebration that this was a golf course at one time, designed by Arnold Palmer. Edwin Simonet for Belgium.
So you can see the Polaris there and the hazards.
Obstacle 5. Time to beat obstacle 5 for Taz, the new leader after obstacle 8 to set his quickest time. Jeremy Vutas 1 minute 1.64 seconds at obstacle 5.
He really drives so smoothly and forward through the hazards that it may not look as fast as the others, but keeping the carriage momentum going really helps with your speed. Let's see if he takes the short way. Yep, he's going to take the short way down this hill. Whoa, that's when you need your fifth wheel brake. That's what she's tightening right there. That stops your carriage from fishtailing if you are going around.
Target 1 minute 1.64. He goes through the clock at 1 minute 2.88. 1 minute 2.88 to into second place. Edward Simonet at obstacle 5. Marika Ham for Germany, whose score has to count at obstacle 3, and he's chasing Costa Ronda's time of 53.59.
Yeah, Marika, she's such a wonderful driver. She's really in tune with her horses. She's just very graceful when she drives, and I think you can see it in her horses. They really listen to her.
Obstacle 3, 1 minus 53.59. Costa Ron's fastest time.
Oh, let's get around that now. You can see her navigators telling her to go, to turn on the gas, and they're ready to run out.
1 minute, 1 minute, 1 second, 0.16 for Marika Ham at obstacle 3. Now Chester Webber. for the United States, one of the most celebrated drivers from the US over the last 15 years. Individual silver medalist 4 years ago behind Boyd Excel, and overnight in second place on 35.1 his dressage score, and just behind the reigning individual champion from Australia, Boyd Excel, and his score overnight 31.68. So just 3.42 penalties between these two great rivals, Chester Webber of the United States, who we're watching right now, and Boyd Excel, who will be coming in a couple of drivers' time.
You know, Chester, I love watching Chester drive. He is such a planner. He has like every detail planned down to the second, and his rein handling is really beautiful. And his horses are used to him, just listening to him and just being so in tune to him.
14-time United States Equestrian Federation four-in-hand champion, Chester Webber, 14 times. Now, we're looking at two very different head carriages there of those front horses of Chester's. We're just going down to a replay, but I wondered if that caused any particular issues.
Well, you know, in dressage, that's a big issue. In marathon, not so much, but it does affect the way you set your reins. So sometimes you would set your reins a little bit differently for that.
Now, Thibault Cordray comes into the final obstacle on the marathon course here. Obstacle 8, Duron, 52.4, who we just saw a clip of just finishing there, going into the vet gate. 52.4, time to beat for Thibault Cordray at obstacle 8.
Time to beat here in the infant Thibault, set by Costa Rondi, 52 seconds.
Costa Rondi going into the vet gate after 8 obstacles with 5 fastest times out of the 8 on the course. So are we going to see a new leader with Costa Rondi, bearing in mind that at the first obstacle, Costa Rondi, it did not go his way, currently in 5th place at the first obstacle.
So at this point, they like I said, they can hear the scores from the announcer, and they know basically that if they really need to push it in this last hazard or not. He did a super job in there.
57.2, so dropped into about 6th place. Thibault Cordray. And Christophe Sandman, who's retired on the course, but everyone fit and well. Nice to see them all quietly walking off the wonderful marathon course here at Tryon.
Yeah, they know they're finished and they're ready for their showers back to the barn.
Marie Caham for Germany, approaching obstacle 4. Navigator doing just that. Time to beat 1 minute 3.1 seconds, set by Costa Rondi for the Netherlands.
Yeah, so they've walked all this, you know, on foot, and as they come over that hill and see the hazards, they're planning their way in, and they're thinking, you know, okay, this is their first look at it from the carriage rather than on foot.
I was going to actually bring that up earlier, that you know, whilst the drivers get an opportunity to walk the track, these horses have never seen these obstacles before.
No. You know, also another thing that's difficult about this hazard, these greens are round. So you can see there's like, you're going in between a box, which we're all used to, the size of the box, but the green is different sizes, so you don't know exactly how wide that gap's going to be when you go through there with your horses, where they're going to hit it, if you go through that place where it's kind of bumping out or not. So I think that's why that's giving people a little bit of trouble.
Current leader of those that have competed, the scores that we are aware of, is Jeremy Vortaz, 182.01 for Switzerland, is the current leader, and 0.47 of a second, just right behind him, Glenn Geertz for Belgium. Those are the first two at the moment. In third, George von Stein in third place. And we've got a new leader, Koos de Ronde, 174.21. 174.21. Koos de Ronde, who's got the gold team medal the last two games, has gone into the lead here for the Netherlands in the gold medal spot. Jeremy Vortaz in silver medal position, 182.01, and Glenn Geertz for Belgium, 182.48. But look at that lead, nearly 8 seconds lead from Koos de Ronde for the Netherlands. What a cracking start for the reigning champions. And the bike, Wendy, we've got some sort of follower. Is he allowed to do that?
Yes, that's the chef de keep. That's Felix Bresser, the chef de keep.
And in some of equestrian sports, you have this thing about outside assistance. That's okay to have your chef de keep going with you.
Well,
great shot of obstacle 6, and Benjamin Ayo for France approaching obstacle 6.
and he keeps good speed through the water there. And now he's going to do these tight turns through here. We'll see how he does.
Obstacle 6 entitled Coastal Carolina. No knockdowns in obstacle 6. Obstacle 6, best time, von Stein for Germany, 55.66 seconds, 55.66 seconds. Benjamin Ayod's target at obstacle 6.
So back into the water.
Leader goes to wrong. 174.21. These seconds seriously being shaved off as we get to the sharp end of this marathon, day 2 of the FEI driving. Hopefully quite nice for the horses to get splashed.
Oh yeah, I'm sure they love that. Nice cooling.
And so obstacle Benjamin Ayo, 1 minute 8.08 seconds. 1 minute 8.08 seconds for Benjamin Ayo, obstacle 6 for France. Quickest time there, von Stein, 55.66.
And you see he has the short whip there, and that's what he can use to steer the wheelers a little bit because they're close enough to him.
And into second place for France, Thibaut Caudray. He's completed on 180.74. 180.74. Thierry Caudray for France into second place at the moment. Current leader Koos de Ronde, 174.21. Chester Webber for the United States, one of the favourites here to win on home turf. Silver medalist 4 years ago. Chester Webber at obstacle 3, quickest time at obstacle 3. Koos de Ronde, the current leader, 53.59.
And you can see how he really covers a lot of ground, and you can see how he has to turn the leaders first. The wheelers still have to go to make the carriage get around that knockdown.
The 14-time United States Equestrian Federation 4-in-hand champion leaves obstacle 3 in 58.11. So that puts him in 6th place at obstacle 3. Now we've got Misty Wrigley-Miller overnight in 4th place on a dressage score of 42, member of the USA team. Here we've just seen Chester Webber, one of the other members of the USA team, and Misty Wrigley-Miller in obstacle 1, and the target there set by Jeremy Vortaz, 1 minute 1.95 seconds. And that fence, one of the cross-country fence jumps in the cross-country. The horses come under that bridge, pop over that jump,
With the water going like that?
Yeah.
Well, they all seem to be handling it. Maybe it's a mental thing for the riders and drivers.
Well, she's a lot slower than Jeremy Bortaz. She stops the clock at she's not stopped the clock, yes, time to beat 1 minute 1.95, stops it at 1 minute 19.13, so Misty Wrigley-Miller for the US got some time to make up, but she's got another seven obstacles to come. Marika Harm for Germany, overnight in 9th place, approaching obstacle 5. Time to beat at obstacle 5 for Marika Harm, 1 minute 1.64.
You know, also, you know how I talked about your rein length and how you set that, and it's really hard to change because we're not on top of them, right? You have a set length. So when you do these hills, going down the hills, your reins change. You kind of lose your leaders a little bit when they go down the hill, but you're still at the top of the hill. Also, it's hard for your visual. You're not sure you have your bend. So that can be a little bit of a challenge for the drivers in this uneven terrain. She did a great job of that.
You know, you talked that they all come here with a team of 5 horses, so they can have swap them over. You mentioned earlier about horses being in different position, wheelers or leaders. Are most of them, with most of the horses, are you able to swap them around, or do some have specific places that really suit them?
Yeah, some only want to be in the wheel. Some like the wheel because there's not a lot of independent thought, and they like not having to make choices. And then you have other ones that are real bold that like to be in the front because, you know, they think they look fancy and they're really athletic and they want to be out there seeing what's going on. You know, so I think the fun thing about the forehand is the personalities of the horses. And that's a big thing that the drivers have to take into account when putting their teams together.
Chester Webber, 2010 Kentucky on the USA team that finished in silver position, and he followed that up 4 years later with an individual silver medal at Normandy, and now at obstacle number 4, the US driver. Obstacle 4, current fastest time.
Chester Webber with a very smooth
Obstacle
drive here
4 set by Coaster on for the Netherlands, 1 minute 3.1 seconds. And Chester Webber will be seriously chasing that time because he wants that gold medal, both for his nation and himself.
Benjamin Ayou in obstacle number 7, the salute to the armed forces.
So here's this tight D-turn. He did that great.
Overnight, Chester Webber in 2nd place, 35.10 is dressage score. 3.42 penalty points behind Boyd Excel. Obstacle 4. Not a quick time for Chester Webber. Coaster Ron's 1 minute 3.1, just to remind us of that. 9 seconds slower. Chester Webber for America, 1 minute 12.19.
Chester Webber with a
Marika Harm at obstacle 6. Best time there set by George von Stein for Germany, 55.66 seconds.
Making up some time on the back portion. Benjamin Ayou in obstacle number 7.
Marika Harm, 9th as an individual overnight. Team Germany in 5th place.
Chester Webber, meanwhile, still in the golf course, making his way around the center island.
So they're really keen to go through that water. This is Marika Harm, and you can really see how she has to lean forward to give the horses all that range so they can just pull into the traces and drag them out of the water. Good job.
Wendy, you're an experienced four-in-hand driver and you've competed at this level, but have you ever been on the back step?
I've been on the back step, but I'm too bossy.
Before you answer that, I must announce we've got the champion, the reigning champion from the last 2 FEI World Equestrian Games, the world #1, both indoors and outdoors, FEI World Cup driving and the FEI World Equestrian Games. Boyd Excel for Australia, overnight leader here in Tryon, 31.68 his overnight score on the dressage. Boyd Excel for Australia. Overnight leader, now on the marathon course. Defending champion. Boyd, who did a brilliant dressage test yesterday, and the pressure on the horses and on the human bodies immense here, and we must remember that Boyd Excel broke his ankle only 7 weeks ago.
You know, I think when they take a close-up of Boyd's rein handling, you really can see how quick he is with his hands and how determined he is with his loops. He's such a beautiful driver to watch. Excel
has got to beat 1 minute 1.95 seconds at obstacle 1. That's the time set by Jeremy Vortaz for Switzerland. Jeremy Vortaz as an individual, as is Boyd Excel. Australia not with a team. Hugh Scott Barrett, his regular backstepper. Excel stops the clock, 1 minute 7.58, and that has put him out of the top 5 at the first obstacle. So Excel has got some work to do with 7 obstacles to go.
Right. Yeah.
Chester Webber coming to obstacle 5. Obstacle 5, the clock has started. Vortaz has set the time for obstacle 5, quickest so far by the Swiss driver, 1 minute 1.64 Vortaz. Chester Webber, who I'm just looking through the scores, is yet to post a very quick time on the previous obstacles. It's obstacle 5, and Team USA, overnight leaders in the team competition, in the gold medal position after the dressage, looking to go one better than their silver medal back in 2010. Obstacle 5, we'll remind ourselves, 1 minute 1.64, the time to beat. He's not going to do that. He stops the clock in 1:03.39. Into 3rd place at obstacle 5 goes Chester Webber for the United States. 1 minute 3.39. Webber in 3rd place at number 5. Completion of the marathon course for Frenchman Thibault Caudray, or Edward Simonet, I should say. Edward Simonet at obstacle 8. Best time at obstacle 8 set by Costa Ronda, 52.4. Costa Ronda, the current leader here after 10 finishes.
In obstacle 5 right now, past the halfway point on the course.
These little Arabo Frisians really have some gas left after that big hill. Look at them go.
Edward Simonet for Belgium, chasing 52.4.
Is driving the salute to the armed forces at Fence 7.
Footing seems to be holding up very well in that arena also.
Past the quickest time, he stopped the clock in 57.39, out of the top 5. Now reigning champion and overnight leader here in Tryon, Excel for Australia in obstacle 2. No knockdowns in obstacle 2 because they're so solid. This fence, this obstacle, and the time to beat is 57.39 set by Costa Ronda. 57.39 Costa Ronda set, and the clock has passed that. It's 58.13. So into 2nd place at obstacle 2 goes the reigning champion Boyd Excel, just outside that 57.39 seconds set by de Ronda. Beautiful shots.
Yeah, it's a great view of the lake.
A few clouds coming up over the Blue Mountains.
So you,
I could just get a glimpse of the team in between the obstacles. The obstacles are timed as they enter and they leave, and then they have this time in between the obstacles where they can relax and go at their own chosen pace. They have to complete the 8.2 kilometers of the marathon course in between 32 minutes 17 seconds and 45 minutes. And if you think that's a rather odd sounding times, which it is, it's because it's all to do with the set of how many kilometers per hour. Set at 14 kilometers per hour, and they give them a break either way of that. So as long as they complete the entire course between 32 minutes 17 seconds and 45 minutes, they can choose how they use their time in between the obstacles as to what speed they go.
and you can see they have the lanes roped off, so the spectators can follow their favorite drivers if they choose.
And one thing I ought to say, which I haven't mentioned yet, Wendy, we've not talked about, it's not a free run. It's not a free road, if you like, in between the obstacles, because they do have set gates they have to go through, and if they miss those gates, they do get eliminated.
Right, yeah. So there's a certain number of gates there, and that's another thing that the top stepper does, because between hazards, as a driver, sometimes that's your chance to like adjust something or think about your hazards, you know, the next one coming up, think about your plan. So your navigator can make sure that you drive through all the numbered gates on course.
We're watching Chester Webber with his beautiful team of four, relaxing in between the obstacles. Chester Webber, who's currently in third place at obstacle 5, and that being his best result so far on the course. Fourth place at obstacle 1, Webber. And of course all the times are counted and then divided at the end. And now on to the course. One of the most, if not the most, celebrated driver driving today for the Netherlands. Multi-medalist IJsbrand Chardon. Chardon, who is in the gold medal winning team 4 years ago, along with Kostermond. He was an individual bronze medalist in 1994, and before that in 1990 took individual gold in Jerez in 2002, bronze 4 years later, and team gold in 2010. And he's had a hiccup start. I've been reading out all his medals, and it has not been the start. What happened, Wendy, there?
So he went through into the wrong gap. He went into gate D. He was not supposed to go into gate D yet.
Are you saying that some people we're not all infallible? Or
no. Even the great Chardon, I love watching him. I mean, he's incredible. And so he didn't go all the way through. He backed his team out of there. So it doesn't give him penalty points. There he goes through D now. But it does give him the time that he had to stop and back up. If he had gone all the way through it and corrected it, then he would get the penalty point.
IJsbrand Chardon overnight in third place, 41.07. His dressage score, the leader overnight, Australian Boyd Excel, his dressage score 31.68. So nearly 10 penalties between Excel in the #1 spot overnight and the former champion IJsbrand Chardon in third place.
You know, you come in so strong, and sometimes those gaps all look the same when you're driving, and everything's moving so fast. It's very easy to make a mistake like that. But it's great that he and his navigators corrected that before it went too far along.
So IJsbrand Chardon relaxes.
Now watch how
at 6.
The leaders are almost, you know, you have to turn your leaders while you're still going forward. It's like U-turn around this little post.
Rocking the carriage off there.
Time to beat at obstacle 6, set by George von Stein for Germany, 55.66.
When the vehicle hits something. Back onto dry land, getting a bit slick and muddy there, in and out of the water around the lighthouses.
Giving you the image of coastal Carolina.
Meanwhile, at obstacle 3, a big start for Boyd Excel and his team, galloping into the third.
Hurricane Florence last week. Our best wishes to everyone affected.
Ben Ao up at obstacle 8. Driving a 57.45 up there on the top of the hill.
Just to Weber's.
Just outside the top 5.
Americans cheering.
Out of
for, French
obstacle 6.
So far.
You can feel the strength, the power of those horses.
You know, I've sat behind those horses and they are so powerful.
Benjamin Ayer for France into obstacle 8. Fastest time in obstacle 8 set by Costeron, 52.4. Costeron still the current leader here at Tryon, the 2018 FEI World Equestrian Games, the day 2 of the FEI driving. Benjamin Ayer in obstacle 8. Final obstacle on this marathon course, 8.2 kilometers.
Pulling some of the wind out of his horses.
The obstacles have to have a maximum length of 250 meters. .4.
Meanwhile, at obstacle 3, a big start.
Quickest time so far through the final challenge on the marathon course here in Tryon. 57.45 for Benjamin Ayer. 57.45 will put him in 6th place at obstacle 8 for Benjamin Ayer. Benjamin Ayer, member of the French team. And we have a new leader. We have a new leader for Belgium. Edward Simonet, 171.32, 171.32. Edward Simonet for Belgium goes into the lead. 3 seconds, 3 penalties, I should say. 3 penalties quicker than the previous leader, Costeron, who's now in the silver medal position. Edward Simonet into the gold spot, number 1. Now Icebrand Chardon at the obstacle 2, and his teammate Costeron set the quickest time at obstacle 2, 57.39. Day 2 of the FEI driving, and tomorrow all these scores carried forward onto day 3, which will be the cones tomorrow. That's when the medals will be decided. Now we're watching Misty Wrigley-Miller for the US. Misty Wrigley-Miller approaching obstacle 5. Obstacle 5, still that early leader on obstacle 5, still there. Jeremy Vortaz, 1 minute 1.64 seconds. That's the time to chase if the Team US want to stay in the number 1 spot after day 2 of the FEI driving. United States after the dressage, 77.1 their accumulated score. They count the 2 best scores count out of the teams of 3. 10 penalties behind them, the Netherlands, the reigning champion, 87.43.
You can see how sharp that turn is to E. She's taking the long route around there. That seemed to work out very well for some
1
of the
minute
other drivers.
1.64 was the quickest time. Going to be and that was a little bit of miscommunication there at that entrance. We're watching Misty Wrigley-Miller for the US. Navigator doing her job.
Yes, she's doing her job.
Now the last team on the course, representing the reigning champions for the Netherlands. Bram Chardon for the Netherlands, overnight in 5th place with 46.37. 25-year-old son of Icebrand Chardon, and already ranked 9th in the global rankings in FEI driving. This young man, of course, he had the upbringing, Wendy.
Yes, yes. And I don't know if people remember, but Bram used to drive a team of white ponies, and he was so blazing fast on marathon. And he has his sister, who's a show jumper, on the back of the carriage as his navigator.
So a family affair with the Chardons, and
yes.
Bram has got a 1 minute 1.95 seconds obstacle 1, which Bram Chardon, the last of the 19 competitors on the course. here at Tryon at the 2018 FEI World Equestrian Games.
And you can see it has a gray horse in his team today, whereas dressage team is all dark. So this gray horse must be one of his marathon specialists. So this must be one of his favorite leaders for marathon.
And just to confirm the rules about that, they can only bring 5 horses.
Yeah.
And they can, obviously then they can swap and change whenever they want.
Right. And so this horse, maybe he's real bold for dressage and cones, so maybe we'll see that one in cones also.
Bram Chardon's not going to be quicker at obstacle 1 because the 101.95 stops the clock. 109.83 out of the rankings at obstacle 1 for Bram Chardon for the Netherlands. And just this was the reason for that slow time.
Yeah, just a little bit of it looked like he had a problem with his loop, and the horses missed that gap. So I think he planned to go in that gap before there, so he had to go around, and just one little gap misses your
Benjamin Ayo for France completes on 184.52. 184.52 into 7th place goes Benjamin Ayo for France. Current leader Edward Simonet for Belgium, 171.32. Marie Kaham into the final challenge on this marathon course here. Obstacle 8, quickest time so far, Costa Rond, who's currently in silver medal position on 174.21 is his completed score, but he was quickest through obstacle 8 of 52.4. That's the time that Marie Kaham is chasing for Germany. Marie Kaham in 9th place after the dressage as an individual, 51.79 her dressage score. Edward Simonet, current leader. He was 12th of the 19 teams to come out onto this marathon course, and his final score 171.32, and that's what they're all chasing now.
That is the second fastest in obstacle 7.
And Wendy, you were saying that they will have heard announcers giving out those scores, so the drivers will know that the pressure's mounting on them.
Yeah, they can hear it over the loudspeaker. You're concentrating on your course, but you can hear it when Jeff Morgan, the announcer, tells you of a new leader. You hear the excitement in his voice, and you try to listen to see, and when you have to turn on the gas.
What a beautiful, relaxed shot of Marie Kaham's team after the over 8 kilometers of the marathon track. Look, they come in looking absolutely fabulous. So we just wait for the final score for Marie Kaham.
Final drive of the day, Bram Chardon.
A score that will have to be counted for the German team, because the teams of 3 choose their best 2 scores. But Christoph Sandmann for Germany was retired on the marathon course, so his score is out. Bram Chardon. Bram Chardon. It's the young version at obstacle 2. And Bram Chardon at obstacle 2, the time to beat is 55.69 at obstacle 2 now, and that was set by his father. Bram Chardon's got the quickest time at obstacle 2. Bram Chardon, of course, team members, but as individuals, very, very much against each other. So Bram Chardon, 55.69, the time being chased by Bram Chardon.
He's looking back.
58.49, it puts him into 4th place. Bram Chardon into 4th at obstacle 2. Now we've turned our attentions to the father at obstacle 3. This is Bram Chardon, obstacle 3. Quickest time at obstacle 3. Another teammate of the Chardons, Costa Ronda, 53.59. 53.59, the time to beat for Bram Chardon at obstacle 3.
Oh, and he has a knockdown.
Well, it's not gone.
And he has a... Yeah, so he had a knockdown.
Hey, if you're going to hit it, you might as
The
well
orange
rack
ball
it.
coming down gives him 2 penalty points added.
Well, the reigning champions, defending champions, the Netherlands, who overnight were in second place. It has not gone their way, certainly for IJsbrand Chardon here at the start of this marathon course. And this is the final score for Marieke Harm for Germany. Marieke Harm 188.8 into 8th place at the moment. We have 5 more teams still out on the marathon course here at Tryon, and so the current leader, Edward Simonet for Belgium, 171.32. That's the current leader for Belgium, 171.32. 5 teams still competing on the marathon course. Back with IJsbrand Chardon. IJsbrand Chardon, who as an individual overnight 41.06 in 3rd place. Now at obstacle 4. Obstacle 4, another one, rather quick one from Coasteron, 1 minute 3.1 seconds. We don't want to make too many early predictions, but although IJsbrand Chardon has had a few issues around here, the Dutch team as a whole, who were overnight in the silver medal position, and they are the reigning champions, looking for their 3rd consecutive team gold in the FEI driving. They are looking very, very strong indeed here in the marathon. Still a whole day of competition to go tomorrow, but can they move into the #1 spot after the marathon? We will soon know.
They're all 3 team members are so strong in each section. You know, they're really
106.09, Wendy, there of the 106.09 means that IJsbrand Chardon has gone into 2nd place at obstacle 4, but Coasteron teammate is in the lead, so that's good. Now Chester Webber for the United States at the final obstacle on the marathon course here at Tryon. Chester Webber looking to beat the time of the rivals, the Dutch. Coasteron 52.4. He has to beat that time. We won't know the full scores for the teams, but the Team US, the overnight leaders, have slipped. It looks to us as if it's slipping away from that lead. .4. 14 times. US 4-in-hand champion.
Misty Whitney is just behind me. Expect to see Misty quite soon at the Armed Forces Salute at 7.
So Chester knows he really has to turn on the gas here. Finish strong on it.
He's not beaten Deronda.
5 in obstacle 6, the Mars Marina.
59.88, not a good score, a disappointing time for Chester Webber, and now we're with Bram Chardon. Right, Bram Chardon, obstacle 3. Teammate Deron, 53.59, that's the time to beat. Or certainly, if you can be 2nd, that keeps the Netherlands Dutch team in 1st and 2nd at obstacle 3, and of course all the scores are accumulated at the end. And he races out at 49 seconds. We've got a new leader at obstacle 3. Bram Chardon, 25 years old, stops the clock in 49 seconds. That's what it looked like to me anyway. 49 seconds for Bram Chardon, obstacle 3.
One of the things that makes Bram so fast is he runs out before the much farther out from the other teams.
Boyd Excel now for Australia. Boyd Excel coming to obstacle 6, long time fastest scorer, fastest time at obstacle 6 was Von Stein for Germany, 55.66. Excel, who's got into 2nd place at obstacle 5 behind Bortaz. Excel in 3rd place in obstacle 2, and I can't see his name in the top 5 in obstacles 3 and 4. But here he is in obstacle 6, reigning champion, defending individual champion, looking for his 3rd consecutive individual gold medal in the FEI driving at the World Equestrian Games.
And his horses are looking really strong through there.
As we wait for the final scores for Chester Webber for the US.
Kicks up a rooster tail. He goes so fast through the water.
He's got that. Looks like he's strapped in on the back step.
Oh.
So that completes obstacle 6. We'll bring you the time for XL for obstacle 6 when we get it. Now we're looking at Icebrand Chardon. Icebrand Chardon at obstacle 5.
Ready.
Icebrand Chardon, obstacle 5, quickest time 1 minute 1.64 seconds. XL in second place, 1 minute 2.59 at obstacle 5. And Simone set a time of 1 minute 2.88 in third place, and Edward Simone for Belgium is our current leader. He's in the clubhouse, total score 171.32. Edward Simone for Belgium. That is the time that all these final teams, the 5 on the marathon course, have got to chase.
He really drove a beautiful marathon with no mistakes, and you know, every little bobble adds up.
Brown just getting cut up there on that slope. 1 minute 10.47 seconds for Chardon at obstacle 5. Chester Webber's got into the lead. US driver Chester Webber goes into the lead. Look at that time, 160.61. 11 penalties. Better than Edward Simone, who is now in the silver medal position. Chester Webber goes into the gold medal position, 160.61, here in front of a home crowd at Tryon, North Carolina. Now we're seeing Bram Chardon at obstacle 4. The time to chase obstacle 4, 1.03.1, 1 minute 3.1 seconds, but the Deronda and his father Icebrand are in first and second place. So will we have a Dutch 1, 2, 3 at obstacle 4? We've got a 1-2 for the Dutch at obstacles 2 and 4 at the moment, and in fact 3. The Dutch looking very, very strong indeed. The defending champions looking for their third consecutive team gold medal.
You can see from this driver cam how little space you have and how quickly these gaps come up.
Just looking back, the last time that the Dutch won an individual gold as well was Icebrand Chardon himself, and that was in Jerez at 2002 FEI World Equestrian Games. Bram Chardon stops the clock at 1 minute 12 at obstacle 4, so he's not up in the bunch of the leaders at obstacle 4, Bram Chardon. But they've got the Dutch in first and second place with Deronda and Icebrand Chardon. Well, we've seen a tremendous amount of wildlife around this incredible Tryon International Equestrian Centre. And this marathon course on the former golf course designed by Arnold Palmer. But don't worry, the golf course has been built slightly further up the road.
The golfers would be very angry with us if we rode on their golf course.
That's why I thought I'd just mention that it is up the road.
This is quite difficult, this turn too, because the fence in the background that you're turning against is quite low. You see the white fence there on the far side of the B turn.
Watching Icebrand Chardon at obstacle 6. Von Stein for Germany still holding on to that quickest time on obstacle 6 of 55.66. Coming out of obstacle 6.
Always the showman.
Waving to the crowd, says Icebrand Chardon would just wait to bring his score at obstacle 6 for Chardon.
As you mentioned, they do have one spare horse, but they need a team of 4 tomorrow, so they need to make sure that these horses are ready to team up tomorrow.
Wrigley Miller
and deliver
for
a strong
the United
performance in
States.
codes.
The United
It's a
States,
long
who
track.
already have
Well,
Chester
Chester
Webber in the
driving
number
codes
1
for 3 or
spot
4
on
minutes.
160.1. Now Misty Wrigley Miller at the obstacle 8, the final obstacle on the marathon course. Correct. Full length of the marathon, 8.23 kilometers.
Second to last obstacle, the Armed Forces salute.
And has to be completed in under 45 minutes.
58.77.
And the times then used a coefficient and turned into penalty points.
I think that puts
The scores that we give you for the leaders is penalty points accumulated through the dressage yesterday and day 2 of the 3 days of competition, today the marathon, ending tomorrow with the cones, which is somewhat gentler than this.
And you know, Misty makes it look so easy. She's so fluid with the horses, and Misty's horses love her so much, and they do whatever she says.
105.5 for Misty Wrigley Miller for the US. The quickest times through their coastal run, 52.4. So Misty Wrigley Miller, currently going to the vet gate, completes the marathon course. And that is confirmation of that incredible time set by the 14 times US four-in-hand champion Chester Webber. He's also silver medalist as an individual 4 years ago from Normandy. Goes into the lead here on the marathon course, 160.61. Chester Webber looking to topple the domination of the Australian Boyd Excel, who is still out on the marathon course. Bram Chardon, overnight 5th, 46.37. 25-year-old son of Icebrand with the rider cam.
He did good to avoid that knockdown. But the rider, that was a great view. You can see how when you come down the hill, you kind of lose your leaders a little bit, but you have to be turning to avoid that next gap. You can see there, it all pretty much looks the same when the hazards are all one color. That's another trick that they do, so you have to count your gaps to know where you have to go in.
Obstacle 5 with young Bram Chardon. Obstacle 5, best score on there, 1 minute 1.64 seconds. Excel second quickest there, 1 minute 2.59.
And there he goes, starting his gallop out.
Just 4 teams out on the marathon course here at Tryon, the 2018 FEI World Equestrian Games. That was a shot of Hugh Scott Barrett on the back step of Australian overnight leader Boyd Excel, reigning champion for Australia, coming down to obstacle 7. Excel. Duron 55.55, his time at 7. That's the quickest so far.
Thinking very carefully about the pace they're doing all the way around this track to maintain the energy level of their horses, particularly with the final run up the hill all the way to obstacle 8, wanting to ensure that they finish.
Very good, very careful through here.
They do have one spare horse, but they need a team of 4
Beautiful obstacles, aren't they?
Yes, yes. And it's so tight. Boyd's taking all the inside routes here.
Beautifully designed and built by Eric Bull and his team. Course designer Richard Nichol. They worked with Captain Mark Phillips to utilise similar courses and some of the obstacles, similar obstacles for the eventing championships last week. Excel gallops out of obstacle 7. 55.55 is his time to beat. 58.77 Excel at obstacle 7. A lovely shot as the horses relax in between the timed sections. And we're just watching Bram Chardon circle at the end of the lake. He will be the last team to come in. We've still got 3 out on the course. We're waiting for the scores of Misty Wrigley Miller for the US. Boyd Excel, Icebrand Chardon, Bram Chardon, and here we come into 13th place goes Misty Wrigley Miller. 13th place, 197.94 for Team US. Misty Wrigley Miller, 197.94 penalties. We're now watching Icebrand Chardon into obstacle 7. Quickest time so far set by his team colleague Tryon, 55.55. Both Icebrand and Tryon in the gold medal winning team 4 years ago. And as they were 8 years ago in Kentucky.
So Icebrand Chardon driving the armed forces salute here. The leading time was teammate Tryon.
And he's taking all the inside routes here, taking the same route that Boyd took just a minute ago.
1-2 at the moment in obstacle 2, a 1-2 in obstacle 3, a 1-2 in obstacle 4. Tryon with the best score.
And Chardon's great at knowing when he can really push the gas and when he needs to be careful.
Out of it. Chardon.
55 is the leading time for Tryon.
Icebrand Chardon stops the clock in 56.88. 56.88 into second place at obstacle 7. So Tryon and Chardon, obstacle 7, both for the Netherlands in 1 and 2. Still watching Bram Chardon. Beautiful shots of Bram Chardon having a nice relaxed part of the course.
You know, back in the day when we used to use carriages for transport, you would put a gray horse in the lead at nighttime so people could see you coming. And you can really see here how the gray horse really stands out in that team.
Wendy, that is a fabulous piece of information. I didn't know that.
You're English. I thought you're born with that information.
Well, sadly, I'm lacking, clearly. Young Bram Chardon will be the last man to be on the marathon course here at the 2018 FEI World Equestrian Games. Just upping the pace a bit. They've got to complete the course in 45 minutes. But in between the timed obstacles, they can choose their own pace.
So now he's kind of thinking about his plan. Sometimes you change your plan when you're on course. If, you know, it drives a little bit differently than you thought, or, you know, of course here we have the weather to contend with. And then Bram's the last to go, so the footing's a little bit torn up.
In obstacle 6 with Bram Chardon, a member of the overnight silver team position, the Netherlands.
He's doing a great job of holding his wheelers out there. You can see that.
It really gives you the perspective.
Yeah. Oh, that was a great shot because the leaders just missed that little gap. You know, I think that's a visual trick for them with the white fence and on the top and then the brown on the bottom. Sometimes that makes them a little bit confused.
Time to beat obstacle 6, 55.66. That's a long time ago. Well, it feels a long time ago for George von Stein for Germany.
And gallop out of the water.
Well, we're driving with Bram Chardon. He comes out of obstacle 6.
I love this little gray leader. He's so cute.
You see the rider cam there on his helmet. Boyd Excel now coming to the end of day 2 at obstacle 8 on the marathon course. The overnight leader with a dressage score of 31.68 penalties at obstacle 8, completing the marathon. The defending individual champion, looking to make it 3 consecutive individual gold medals at the FEI World Equestrian Games. Boyd Excel for Australia, almost home on day 2 of the FEI driving.
This is a great hazard to really watch. What makes Boyd such a great champion is you can see how he takes the bend of his leaders. You can see how he takes the bend of his leaders. So he's telling them where to go, and then he allows them to go, and then he steers his wheelers. He can steer with his whip just by touching them, so he doesn't have to interfere with the leaders' reins. He really keeps up good pace.
52.4 was the quickest time at 8, and that was Toasterond, Netherlands. 56.17 for the reigning champion. That'll put him down in 5th place at obstacle 8. Boyd Excel for Australia, reigning champion. Let's remind ourselves that the current leader, individual leader of the scores that we have so far, and we still have 3 to come in, is Chester Webber for the United States. That great rival of Boyd Excel's. He's the current leader, 160.61. Chester Webber in the lead here at Tryon. So 2 drivers out on the course at the moment. Isbrand Chardon and his 25-year-old son, 9th in the world rankings, Bram Chardon. Shot of one of the beautiful houses in this park that you can see, private residences.
Is that where you're staying?
No, I wish.
But you can see here that Bram can give his horses a little breather before he heads to the next hazard. And even like 1 minute of walking, my coaches, Randy and Keedy Cadwell, really told me that and made such a big difference. 1 minute of walking can just give them, they can catch their breath, and then you can do your sprint again in the hazards.
You also trained with Chester Webber and Boyd Excel, I think, didn't you?
Mm-hmm, yeah, the Four in Hands, they're such a giving group. They help all of us coming along, and Jimmy also gave me a lot of help, and
Jimmy Fairclough.
Yeah, and of course Mizzy Wrigley. They're all very supportive of driving overall, you know, for singles, pairs, and Four in Hands.
Well, we know that Boyd Excel's in the clubhouse, but we don't have his score yet. Now we're looking at Isbrand Chardon at his last challenge, the obstacle 8. Isbrand Chardon overnight in 3rd place, behind the leader Boyd Excel.
You know, I love his leaders. I love Chardon's leaders. In dressage, they're not as fancy with their front ends, but they really cover a lot of ground. They're really what a nice driving horse should be.
57.27, so down the leaderboard in 7th or 8th place. Isbrand Chardon at the final obstacle as he completes the marathon course here at Tryon.
In the lead in obstacle 8 in 52 seconds.
Isbrand now, it's about waiting for the scores. So we know that Excel and Chardon Senior have completed the marathon. We're waiting for their scores, and the last man on the course is the junior Chardon, Bram Chardon, just having a nice time around the beautiful Tryon Park. But that'll soon change in a few seconds' time when he approaches the next challenge. The Netherlands. It's feeling, sitting here, that the Netherlands may go into the #1 team spot after day 2. We'll wait to see what the computers tell us at the end, but that's the feeling we're getting, is that the Netherlands look as if they might be going into the gold medal spot for the team, looking to win their 3rd consecutive team gold medal at the FEI World Equestrian Games. A similar feat hoping to be achieved by Boyd Excel, looking for his 3rd consecutive gold.
So you can see that number 7, that's one of the course gates. So that's letting them know they're headed to hazard 7. They have to go over that bridge. They can't miss that gate.
Completion time must be in less than 45 minutes. The crowd's giving Bran Chardon a clap as they go by.
Camarillo from Spain and Martha Hanks-Nickel from the United States. A great job on this cross-country course as you watch Bram come in to salute to the armed forces.
They look so graceful, considering this is quite an aggressive sport when you get into these obstacles.
Yeah. And this hazard has proven to be very trappy. For when they walked it, it didn't seem like that it was that difficult. But everybody's having quite a bit of difficulty with these turns, and it's probably because of the angles that they have set up for these posts.
Look, obstacle 7, the penultimate obstacle for Bran Chardon. Time to beat 55.55 if he wants to be in the #1 spot, which will be important as an individual. As a team, he doesn't have too much to worry about, because first and second in obstacle 7 times at the moment are both his teammates, Costa Rond and Ice Bran Chardon. Chester Webber holding on to that 160.61 individual gold medal spot score at the moment.
Bram Chardon there in 1:01.33, 15.33 penalty points.
So you can see there the navigator has some notes where she can check on their times, where they're supposed to be at what time. They have markers on course where they know what to do.
And the scores coming up for the completion of the overnight leader, reigning defending champion Boyd Excel for Australia.
So at the vet box here, the steward checks their bits and checks their harness, make sure that everybody's in compliance.
Scores will be with us in a few moments' time as everything gets checked over with Boyd Excel. I'm just watching Bran Chardon. I just noticed he was doing some taping around his fingers. Wendy, we saw that shot earlier. I guess, you know, doing this with these reins like this and the strength of the horses, I suppose you get rubs and blisters.
Yeah, you can get rubs and blisters, and like I said, some people...
Boyd Excel, sorry Wendy,
Yep.
Boyd Excel goes into the lead, the defending champion for Australia, Boyd Excel, 153.61 into the lead. The Australian defending champion. What a tremendous second day from the man who has already won 2 consecutive individual gold medals at the FEI World Equestrian Games, bidding to make it 3 in a row. Into the lead, Boyd Excel for Australia, 153.61. And just 2 scores to come in, and they're both from the Chardons, and that's Ice Bran Chardon's team. Here's his score: Ice Bran Chardon 174.02, 174.02 for the Netherlands. Ice Bran Chardon in 4th place, but Boyd Excel, overnight leader, defending champion, goes into the lead with just 1 more score to come in. That'll be Bran Chardon, who, here he is, approaching the final obstacle on this 8.2 kilometre marathon course.
So the course is down in this in the bowl, like we talked about. So it's great for spectators. So this is him coming up this this gradual hill that was also the end of the 3-day event course. So they're rating their speed and they're planning on what they're going to do up here at the boxes.
As he approaches obstacle 8, Bran Chardon, the quickest through obstacle 8, 52.4 was teammate Costa Ronda, a member of the previous 2 gold medal winning teams at the World Equestrian Games. In second place at the obstacle 8, George von Stein for Germany, 54.5, but the target is 52.4 for Bran Chardon.
And going up this hill, they'll allow their leaders to pull because they're going in a straight line, so it's not going to affect their, ability. But now all 4 horses can help pull the carriage up this hill, so that the wheelers get a little bit of a break.
Well, what a fantastic day of sport we've had on the marathon track. We still have to stay with Bram Chardon as he approaches the final obstacle. But the course, Wendy, seems to have gone very well indeed. We just had one retirement from a little hiccup from Christoph Salmon. Everyone okay there, but how do you feel it flowed?
I think it flowed really great. It was, like I said, it's great for the spectators to be able to see so many hazards at once. And I feel like there were some tough questions on course for the drivers, but they handled it well. And I think, you know, I've driven Richard Nichols courses before, and some of his tricks have trapped me before too, but that's what makes a good course designer.
Well, there is the current standings with one more score to come in, showing that the overnight leader, reigning champion, Boyd Excel for Australia, goes into the lead by exactly 7 penalty points ahead of his arch rival, Chester Webber of the United States. Edward Simonet for Belgium in third, 71.32, about 11 penalties behind Chester Webber. And then IJsbrand Chardon for the Netherlands, 174.02, closely followed by 0.2 of a penalty point behind by teammate Koos de Ron for the Netherlands. So that is the head of the leaderboard. Basically, Boyd Excel stamping his authority on this sport once again. Absolutely incredible. But we still have one score to come in, and here is young 25-year-old Bram Chardon with his team, thinking about his final challenge on marathon day 2 of the FEI driving.
Into the arena and onto the first gate of obstacle 8 in the final lap today for the Netherlands, Bram Chardon, bringing his team.
So also you have to get the horse's mind kind of back into hazard mode. Like, they're going up the hill, they're all relaxing, and you're headed towards the barn. They might think they're done for the day, so you have to kind of wake them up a little bit, tell them there's one more hazard to go.
Into obstacle 8, the final competitor on day 2 of the FEI driving at the 2018 World Equestrian Games, Bram Chardon for the Netherlands. Time to beat 52.4 seconds, set by his teammate Koos de Ron. And current leader, reigning champion, Boyd Excel for Australia, 153.61.
Halfway through the obstacle down, but I'm going to get the final down here at the top of the hill.
52.4 the time.
Very accurate through here, not making any mistakes.
Goes to the leading of the charge today.
Gonna make
its fastest time in this obstacle at 52.40.
Patriot's time.
Break the minute mark, but not far off
Canters
that.
through the
102.88.
timer, stops the clock at 102.8, 102.88 for Bram Chardon, and that completes the marathon for Bram Chardon and for the 19 competitors that have come forward for the FEI driving here at the World Equestrian Games. We had 5 teams. We'll tell you the team update scores. Bram Chardon looking a little bit despondent there, Wendy. Or maybe he's just tired.
Maybe he's tired. It's a long way to travel with the horses, and they got out of quarantine. And also, driving a marathon with 4 horses is emotionally draining. You know, it's a lot of concentration. So, when you finish, sometimes you have to just take a moment and gather yourself together.
So the 19 teams, after the dressage yesterday, the United States of America were heading the field with 77.1 penalties. Then the Netherlands in second place, about 10 penalties behind, 87.43. France were in third in the bronze medal position, 101.4. In fourth, Belgium, 102.76. And Germany in fifth place on 102.82. Each of those 5 teams with 3 teams representing them, and they take the best 2 scores to count. And that's become very significant for Team Germany, who are currently in 5th, because they lost the score of Christoph Sandmann, which was looking like being a very good round, but unfortunately he had a hiccup and had to retire, but all is well. So we just need to wait and see once the final scores, is to see whether the Netherlands have gone into the lead ahead of the United States. We get the feeling they may have done, but we don't want to make too many predictions here. So have the gold medal winners from the last 2 FEI World Equestrian Games, the Netherlands, gone into the lead at the end of day 2 of the FEI driving? We will soon find out. One of the things that we do know is that the overnight leader, Boyd Excel, is currently in the lead by 7 penalties ahead of Chester Webber. 153.61 Boyd Excel, 160.61 Chester Webber. So those 2 great rivals in 1st and 2nd at the moment, but we wait to get the score of this young man on the screens at the moment. Young Bram Chardon, just at the age of 25, ranked 9th in the world. As the boots and the protection come off the horse's legs. Well, whilst we wait for the scores, we have seen some fantastic shots, beautiful camera shots over the last 3 hours on the driving. And let's just take a look and let's reflect on some of those wonderful images from the FEI driving, the marathon stage. Of the familiar face of Boyd Excel, the overnight leader. That was just having it as confirmed. Bram Chardon. Bram Chardon, member of the Dutch team, 204.34, disappointing score for the 25-year-old in 16th place. So the Dutch team will be discarding that score in terms of the team competition, because IJsbrand Chardon and Costa Rond are further up in the field, as we will see now, because this is just showing you that Boyd Excel, for Australia, overnight leader, reigning champion, goes into day 3 of the FEI driving into the cones in the lead, defending his title, bidding to be 3 times FEI Equestrian World Champion. Boyd Excel for Australia in the number 1 spot going into the cones tomorrow. But just behind him, just 7 penalties behind, Chester Webber of the United States and Edward Simonet. What a super run from him, and 171.32 for Belgium. And IJsbrand Chardon and Costa Rond in 4th and 5th for the Netherlands. And there's no other US driver now. Jimmy Fairclough in 12th. So it looks like the Netherlands will go into the gold medal spot, and they're defending their title like Boyd Excel from the 2 previous FEI World Equestrian Games. Bram Chardon there in 15th equal place with Misty Wrigley-Miller. Well, that's the... Let's now have a look at the team, and they have indeed, just by... Wow, about 1 penalty. The Netherlands go ahead of the United States and Belgium in the bronze position. So the Netherlands, defending their gold medal, go into the number 1 spot with 1 day to go of the FEI driving. Team USA into silver, Belgium into bronze. Another day of sport to play for. and then and so tomorrow is the culmination of the 3 days of the FEI driving. But what an extraordinary day, Wendy. Briefly, just tell me in a few words what you think about today.
Yeah, I think today went really fabulous for all the teams, and I'm looking forward to cones tomorrow. Less than a ball between Netherlands and the United States.
And that about sums it up. Less than a ball between the top two teams for gold and silver here in the FEI driving. So us, after a fabulous marathon here at Tryon, it's goodbye from us and the commentary team. We'll be right back with you tomorrow for the FEI driving day 3, the cones. Don't miss it.